Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Harināma Cintāmaṇi. This is episode 4 and today's topic is Vaiṣṇava Aparādha, the offense or blasphemy against devotees. One second. So this is a very important topic for our advancement in Krishna consciousness, and we should avoid the offense to devotees. So in this chapter, Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and of course quoting Haridas Thakur and Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he explains how to identify a Vaishnava, so then we know whom not to blaspheme. See, if we can't even identify a Vaishnava, just talking about Vaiṣṇava Aparādha without knowing what is a Vaishnava, we will run into problems. So we will say our Mangalacharan prayers and then we will seek the blessings of all the Acharyas and the entire Parampara, and then we will try to explain this subject. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guro Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaiṣṇavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Caitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadharam Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to this episode of Harināma Cintāmaṇi. So today's very important topic, Vaiṣṇava Aparādha, and this is the chapter 4 of the book, Blasphemy of the Vaiṣṇavas, and it just as we have explained. So before we understand Vaiṣṇava Aparādha, we should understand what is Vaiṣṇava. So that is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains through the agency of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Haridas Thakur explaining their conversation. He explains to us what is actually a Vaishnava, and then we will know whether we are offending or not. Of course, the consequences of offenses we have studied in other places, but this chapter is primarily on how to even identify a Vaishnava and what constitutes an offense and what are the reasons for offenses. So it's an interesting read. So let's begin. Chapter 4, Blasphemy of Vaishnavas. Gadadhar Prana Jaya Jannava Jivan Jaya Sitanath Shrivasadi Bhaktagan. Sri Caitanya said, O Haridas, now describe in detail the offences to the holy name. Haridas answered, By your power I will say what you make me say. So if you remember our previous 3 sessions, we have studied the opulences of Krishna and how the name in the first chapter, the name, holy name is equal to Krishna. And then we have studied the stages of chanting, pure chanting, nama-bhas chanting, and then anama-aparadhs chanting, an overview of that. And then the third chapter is about nama-bhas itself, and the different stages of nama-bhas, especially the 2 stages. What is that? Ashraddha nama-bhas, or how to say, indirect nama-bhas, and then there is Shraddha nama-bhas. So we have studied all that, and I think after this study of the Harināma Cintāmaṇi, we should have some charts explaining each chapter. I mean, the whole Harināma Cintāmaṇi in kind of an infographic format, so that it's easier to revisit the entire subject matter at a glance. So I think we have to do that. That's because there's very nice, very specific instructions on everything. So that can be actually summarized in this pictographic form. That will be nice. So, so in this 4th chapter now, from the 4th chapter in fact, all the 10 offenses, because nama-bhas was already discussed, now it's about nama-aparadh, and each of those nama-aparadh are mentioned. And each chapter is actually, one chapter is dedicated to one aparadh. So today's chapter is about the Vaiṣṇava aparadh, which is the first offense, Sādhu Ninda. So Sri Caitanya said, "O Haridas, now describe in detail the offenses to the holy name." Haridas answered, "By your power I will say what you make me say." So that is always the mood of Vaishnava. He will always speak on the authority of Krishna, and he doesn't go beyond the etiquette of, in this case it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, but even in other case, in the presence of a senior Vaishnava, one has to not be very enthusiastic to speak. So I don't know if any of you have read about the life story of Rasikānanda Prabhu. He is the disciple of Shyamananda Pandit. Shyamananda Pandit himself was a Shiksha disciple of Jiva Goswami. And Rasikānanda Prabhu was extremely scholarly, but in the presence of his spiritual master, he was like a shy, a complete, he appeared to be very, very shy. In fact, he was not at all enthusiastic to speak before his spiritual master. So we have one article about the life story of Rasikānanda, very inspiring. In fact, I have done a short TikTok on one of the incidences of Rasikānanda, which has nothing to do with his humility in front of his spiritual master, but it's a small, how strict he was. So, so by your power I will say what you make me say, Haridas Thakur was saying. So then he continues. Offenses to the holy name are analyzed as 10 according to scripture. So you know which scripture, right? Padma Puran. We have gone through the 4 verses that explain the 10 offenses. This is in the Brahma Khanda, I think, in the Padma Puran. The exact references we have given while we were discussing 8th chapter, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila chapter 8, text 24. Purport. The entire aparadhas are mentioned there. So, offenses to the holy name are analyzed as 10 according to scripture. One should be fearful of committing these offenses. They are as follows. So the Vaishnavas also have fear. Abhaya Charanaravinda. The Lord's lotus feet are called Abhaya Charanaravinda, the fearless lotus feet. But that is fearlessness against Maya. But to be fearless against Maya, one must be fearful of committing offenses to Krishna. When we say offenses to Krishna, it includes everything that belongs to Krishna also. In fact, if you see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains to Sanatana Goswami about the principles of devotional service that he needed to delineate in his books. So while instructing Sanatana Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says Tadiya Sevana. Tadiya Sevana means things related to Lord Krishna. That is very, very important aspect of devotional service. And Tadiya Sevana means anything related to Krishna, and that includes Vaiṣṇava, Bhāgavatam, Tulasī, and let's go there actually. Tadiyanam Samarchanam. So 22. Tadiya, Tulasī, Vaiṣṇava, Mathurā and Bhāgavat. So this includes everything related to Krishna. Because Ārādhyo Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhāma Vrindavanam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy is that Krishna should be worshipped and his abode also should be worshipped as good as him. And when we say abode, he is not staying in a studio apartment, and only him. No, abode means full of paraphernalia that for his enjoyment, and that is his spiritual world. He's not just staying in a one-room apartment. That's not his abode. His abode is the entire spiritual world, and especially Goloka Vrindavan, which is millions and trillions of living beings there, and all the things, the articles that are used for his service, everything. Abode means it includes everything, all paraphernalia, devotees and everything. So, but still Tulasī and Vaiṣṇava and Bhāgavat are also mentioned here. So, Tadiya means Tulasī leaves the devotees of Krishna, Vaiṣṇavas, the birthplace of Krishna, Mathurā, and in fact any place that is related to Krishna, and Bhāgavat, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. E charirach seva hoy Krishna abhimata. Krishna is very eager to see his devotees serve Tulasī, Vaiṣṇavas, Mathurā and Bhāgavatam. So this is very important. Madbhakta puja bhyathika. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnura aradhanam param. Tasmat parataram devi tadiyanam samarchanam. So the worship of things and devotees, anything related to Krishna is even higher than serving Krishna. So that is the whole point in this. So one should be fearful of committing these offenses. Okay, in regards to this, there is this statement in Bhagavad Gita. We should know what ought to be feared and what ought not to be feared. 1830, we have this verse which says pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya karye bhaya bhaye bandham moksham cha ya avetti buddhi sa partha satviki. You see this? O son of Pritha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. See that? So there is something which is to be feared and something which is not to be feared. Not that, we are devotees, we should be fearless of everything, fearless of Vaiṣṇava aparad also, fear of Seva aparad, fear of Nama aparad. No, we have to be very careful against it. Only a rascal would be fearless of these things. So, Prahlad Maharaj also says to Narasimhadev Bhagavan, he says, I fear not your ferocious form, but I fear Maya. Maya I fear a lot because by her influence I can completely forget you, and that's what I fear. So what is my remedy? What is he asked as a remedy to that, or a prevention to that? Association with devotees, life after life. That's what he asks for, Prahlad Maharaj. So let's go back. So one should be fearful of committing these offenses. The offenses to the holy name are analyzed as 10. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme or criticize the Vaiṣṇavas. 2. To consider that other living entities such as demigods are independent of Krishna. 3. To disobey or disrespect the Guru. 4. To disrespect scriptural authority. 5. To interpret the meaning of the name and to think that the glories of the name are imaginary. 6. To commit sinful activity on the strength of the holy name. 7. To give the name to the unfaithful who are not ready to accept. 8. To consider the holy name as karma or pious activity. 9. To be inattentive while chanting the holy name. 10. After having taken correct knowledge, being aware of the glories of the holy name, to remain attached to the material world of I and mine, and ultimately reject the name. So of course the order is appears slightly different, but actually it's not, because 5th and 6th offenses are merged together. To interpret the meaning and to think that the glories of the name are imaginary. Because usually the inattentiveness is counted as an additional offense again, apart from the 10. But here it's included in the 10. As you can see, in 9th offense, to be inattentive while chanting the holy name. So these shall be described one after another. The first offense, known as Sādhu Ninda, criticism of Vaiṣṇavas, is very harmful for those wanting to progress in spiritual life. Criticism of Vaiṣṇavas. First, let us define what Sadhu or Vaishnava is. In the 11th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Krishna enumerates to Uddhava the characteristics of a sadhu. Now there are so many words here: Dayalu, Sahishnu, Sama, Drohashunya Vrata, Satyasara, Vishuddhatma, Parihitarata, Kāme, Akṣobhita, Buddhi, Danta, Akinchana, Mridu, Shuchi, Parimita Bhoji, Shantaman, Aniha, Dhriman, Sthira, Apramatta, Sugambhira, Vijita Shadguna, Amani, Manada, Daksha, Avanchaka, Jnani. So I looked for these words in the 11th canto actually. This was a few weeks before when I was reading this part. So I was thinking, where are these words? So I could never find. So then, fortunately, there was a book, Harināma Cintāmaṇi, in book format. I think I mentioned this before. Sundagopal Prabhu was gifted by some devotee that book, Harināma Cintāmaṇi. So it was in his cupboard. So I found that and I took and looked for this verse. What is the exact verse that was mentioning this? So when I saw that, then I saw that it was actually, the whole book is in Bengali language. And this verse also was in Bengali. All these words are, Bengali. Of course, they are very, very similar to Sanskrit words. But these particular words are never to be found in the 11th canto. So what I understood was, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining that these things are mentioned in the 11th canto, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarized all the characteristics of a devotee. So these are described in series of verses. Maybe, for example, Parihitarata, engaged in the welfare of mankind. So there are a few verses mentioning how a devotee is actually, doing the welfare for mankind. Like in the 11th canto, 26th chapter, how the devotees are the only refuge for persons who are repeatedly falling in this birth and death cycle. So in that way, you can find these verses spread across all throughout the 11th canto of Uddhava Gita, where Krishna spoke to Uddhava. So basically this was summarized. So these are all, it's a Bengali verse actually. This was when I saw it in the book. So anyway, Krishna enumerates to Uddhava the characteristics of a sadhu. Dayalu, first is Dayalu, merciful. Sahishnu, tolerant. Titikshavaha, karunikaha, tolerant and merciful. Haridas Thakur also exhibited such tolerance and mercy. And in fact, I have done a recent YouTube short, a 1-minute video on Haridas Thakur. I think our moderator is also busy today. So I think Recently I made a shot of Haridas Thakur, how he is very tolerant and merciful. And every Vaishnava is like that, real Vaishnava. So, merciful, Sahishnu, tolerant, Sama, equal, Droha Shunya Vrata, penance without injury to the body. Now, okay, just see, Sama, equal. So much disparity is going on in the world today. Oh, where have I come? So much disparity is going on in the world today. Oh, leftists, rightists, right wing, left wing, or blacks, whites, coloreds, what is that? Gender inequality. So many on levels of many levels of inequality, or financial inequality. Because it's like the rich and the poor, or the communists and the capitalists. On all levels, there are so much disparity now, and that is because people are not Vaishnavas. But Sama, when one becomes a Vaishnava, automatically, see, equal. Droha Shunya Vrata, penance without injury to the body. Important. Satyasara, truthfulness. Vishuddhatma, purified. Purified soul. Parihita Rata, engaged in the welfare of mankind. Rata means engaged, and how to say, like Rati. Rati means to have attraction, or he's involved, he's very into it. Parahita. Hita means benefit. Parahita means others' benefit. So he's always engaged in the benefit of others. Paropakar. Kāme Akṣobhita Buddhi, intelligence free from lust. Currently our intelligence is dictated by lust. Lusty intelligence. Lusty intelligence means we use our intelligence to fulfill our lusty desires. Intelligence free from lust means that intelligence will keep us away from the lusty desires. That intelligence will enable us to see that, this is lusty desire, don't go for it. Whereas if we are dictated by lusty desire of the mind, then the intelligence will find ways and means how to fulfill those lusty desires. Uses the intelligence. We use our intelligence to do that. So that higher intelligence to dictate what is right and what is wrong, that will only be possible if we take knowledge from Krishna. That is explained in the 3rd chapter. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manah manasastu parabuddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmanam jahishatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. So, in the last 2 verses of the 3rd chapter, it is said that the intelligence should be strengthened and made to understand that it's higher than the mind, and the mind is higher than the senses. So in this way there has to be direction from top down, not from bottom up. Now our senses are pulling us, then our mind is seeing what the senses are showing the mind, and then the mind is yes, okay, I will. So it's like the senses are like the agent for the mind, it's like, this is a dirty business, but this example is quite apt in this connection. We are engaging in the prostitution of the mind. Prostitution is when a woman, she doesn't stay with one man, she jumps from one man to another every single day. So that's a prostitute. So our mind is engaged in prostitution right now. So instead of serving Krishna and being chaste to Krishna, we are chasing one thing after another, after another, after another. It's like the woman there is prostitution, but the man also, he goes from one moment to another, to another, to another. Every day a different prostitute. And then a rich man, he would employ someone to give him the supply of new girls every day. And in that in that kind of industry, there's such a person, such an agent is called a pimp. A pimp is a person who arranges prostitutes for the customer. So he's an agent. So the senses, they are acting as agents for the mind. Here is one interesting thing, and here is another interesting thing, here is another interesting thing. Offering so many materialistic things, objects, for the mind to enjoy. And the mind is agreeing. And sometimes if those things are a little bit difficult to obtain, or how to navigate, how to obtain these things, so mind makes plans and then consults intelligence, and intelligence will do it in a proper way that the demands can be fulfilled. So the whole order is coming from the bottom up. The senses are showing something and the mind is following the senses, the intelligence is following the mind. In this way we are directed from bottom up. But if the intelligence is strengthened by spiritual knowledge coming from Krishna, now the soul is higher than the intelligence, but higher than the soul is the super soul, and the knowledge derived from the super soul should guide the soul, become strong, and then the soul should dictate to the intelligence, and the intelligence then dictates the mind then dictates the senses. That's what the Kurmongani va sarvashaha, like the tortoise in the second chapter 58th verse of Bhagavad Gita. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvashaha indriyani indriyarthebhyas tasya prajna pratisthita. So that means the tortoise, he can withdraw his limbs or he can manifest them whenever he wants according to the need. So similarly, we should be able to control the senses. That is called Goswami. That is our real state. We should be in a position to do that, but being weak, we can't do that. We are dictated by the senses. So Kāme Akṣobhita Buddhi, intelligence free from lust. So you see how every word that is here is very, very deep. Actually, we can go very, very in depth into every single one of these qualities of a devotee. Like merciful, there are so many examples. Haridas Thakur, Jesus Christ, Rishabhdev, Prahlad Maharaj. Everybody, in fact, devotee always have to face these onslaughts from the demoniac side, demoniac living entities. So he has to be tolerant, and at the same time, for those who are qualified to take, or those who are, even though they may not be qualified, if they have a little bit of interest in this, he will try to help. And even if they do not have interest, he will still try to help. He will still try to figure out ways and means how to help even those who are harming him. That is merciful. Tolerant, sama, equal. Like Prabhupada, the second class devotee has to distinguish, right? Who is a devotee, who is not a devotee, who is envious, who is innocent, who is the Lord and who is not. So accordingly he has to develop his relationships with each of these categories of living entities. So a preacher has to do that. Second class devotee. First class devotee, he doesn't see any difference between the devotee and non-devotee. He sees everybody equal. So at one point, Prabhupada was asked by his friend Dr. Patel, Mr. Patel, I don't think it's a Dr. Patel, maybe. So anyway, that Patel, he comes in many of those conversations in Prabhupada's conversations. So he's always a little bit playful. So he asked Prabhupada, oh, that means you're not in the first class platform, you're preaching all over the world. So he was, in a joking manner, he was putting into Prabhupada that, oh, you're in a second class platform, you're not a first class devotee. You're not seeing everybody equal. So you are saying that this is an innocent, this is envious or whatever. And Prabhupada paused for a while and said, my equality is that I preach without any distinction. Whether it's black, white, colored, man, woman, anybody, I'll just preach. We are opening centers in Africa, Prabhupada said. So of course, so that equality. So he preached with equality. Not that he preached only to the Brahmanas, preached to the Hindus. No. Everybody. He did not see that this is Hindu, this is Muslim, this is Christianity. No. He did not see all these distinctions. He just preached the word of God. So that is Sama. So you see, although that's why we Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya. Paramahamsa is the topmost stage of the first class devotee. Paramahamsa. Parivrajagacharya is the preacher, traveling preacher. So that is in a second class platform. But we say Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya. That means he is actually from the first class platform, but for the sake of service to the Lord, he descended to the second class platform to perform that service. Empowered by the Lord, he can descend to the second class platform. Not that his consciousness is in the second class platform, but he acts on that platform to benefit everyone, but his consciousness is on the first class platform. And if he wants, if a devotee is empowered, he can even act like a third class, or even dull-headed like Jada Bharat. He's first class, but his renunciation is so strong, empowered by the Lord. He behaved like not just a third class, not even an ordinary materialist, retarded person. So a Vaishnava empowered by the Lord can do anything. So then, Droha Shunya Vrata, penance without injury to the body. So it's not about injuring the body. And injury to the body means not only one's body but others' body also. So if you see in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verses 5 and 6, let's quickly go there before we come back. अशास्त्र विहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपोजनाः दम्भाहंकार संयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः कर्षयन्तः शरीरस्थं भूतग्राममचेतसः मां चैवान्तः शरीरस्थं तान् विद्यासुरनिश्चयान्. Those who undergo severe austerities and penances not recommended in the scriptures, performing them out of pride and egoism, who are impelled by lust and attachment, who are foolish and who torture the material elements of the body, as well as the super soul dwelling within, are to be known as demons. See that? Torture the material elements of the body. And then we have 17:19 also. This is one's own body, and this is Mudha Grahenatmano Yat Pīdaya Kriyate Tapaha Parasyotsadanartham Va Tattamasamudahritam. Penance performed out of foolishness with self-torture or to destroy or injure others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Now the modern scientific advancement is a lot of tapasya, but it will injure self-torture and also injuring others, like nuclear weapons or some form of seeming religiosity where others are injured. This is nonsense. This is in the mode of ignorance. That is not a real religion at all. That's rubbish. So, Droha Shunya Vrata. Satyasara, truthfulness, honesty in general dealings, but also Satyasara means his essence. Sara means essence. His entire essence is on the platform of Satya, the absolute truth. So his whole existence is based on the absolute truth. So he lives only for the absolute truth. That means a devotee. He lives only for Krishna. As we know, absolute truth means Brahma, Paramatma, Bhagavan, and Bhagavan is Krishna. So one who lives for only Satya, the Param Satyam Param Dhimahi. So Satyasara. So devotee in both spiritual and material. Because if I am saying Brahman is the supreme and I am very truthful in the worldly dealings, I am ultimately not completely truthful. Truthful means to express the truth as it is, to mention the truth as it is, not changing anything. You see? And if I do not know about God, and if I have my own speculations about God, about the absolute truth, then like if I say Brahman is everything, then that is not true. So all speculations, they are not truths. Truth means that which is given by Krishna. The word of God is truth. Everything else is not truth. Everything else is subjective. opinions. So, when I try to teach while I do not know the subject, that is cheating. That's not teaching. So, Satyasara, truthfulness, means to know everything as it is, and then acknowledge that and teach that to others. Follow it oneself in one's own life and then teach it to others. Then Vishuddhatma, purified of all lust, everything. The real contamination is lust, which manifests itself in different stages, but actually ultimately it's lust, the desire to enjoy one's own senses. Atmendriya pritivancha, tare boli Kāme. Kāme Akṣobhita Buddhi, we have just studied that. And Danta, restrained. Danta means control. Akinchana, devoid of concept of ownership. Akinchana gocharam. So Akinchana means who is a impoverished person, who doesn't have any possession. That is Akinchana. But the Pandavas were also known as Akinchana. Yudhishthira Maharaj, although he was a king, he was known as Akinchana because he did not. Impoverished means what? He doesn't possess anything. So Yudhishthira Maharaj and any devotee, he doesn't have the sense of proprietorship over anything. Nirmama, nirahankaraha, tyakta sarva parigraha. So he gives up everything. He gives proprietorship. He gives up proprietorship over everything. Nothing is mine. Everything is Krishna. Īśāvāsamidam sarvam yatkinca jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha magradha kasya swadhanam. So that is the that is how the devotee lives. That is the consciousness of a devotee, and that's factually based on the Vedas. That everything is the property of the Lord, and we are only given our quota for a time period. But everything is the Lord's property. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Then only we can be peaceful. So Akinchana is that, devoid of concept of ownership. Mridu, gentle. Mridu, gentle. Delicate, Delicate, delicate doesn't mean, he is very easily, affected. No. This is actually in the meaning of gentle. Gentle is the right word because he is very gentle with others. Shuchi, clean inside and outside, in the mind, in the heart, in the body, everything is very clean. Parimita bhoji, regulated eating and other habits, is another thing. He is not a sense gratifier. He just keeps the body well oiled, well maintained, so that it can be used in Krishna's service. He knows that this body is very well the property of Krishna, and therefore we have to take good care of it, but only to the extent that it has to be used in Krishna's service. Understanding well that this body belongs to Krishna, and therefore good care has to be given. Just like any paraphernalia of Krishna, we have to take good care of it, right? A worship paraphernalia. For example, anything. So if I say, for example, related to the temple, now this computer or this camera that I am using to film this. So this is Krishna's property, and it has to be, taken good care of. And anything that is in the temple, the deities too should be taken care of. The deities' paraphernalia should be taken care of. And what is not deities' paraphernalia? Everything is, including our own bodies. They are also Krishna's paraphernalia, and they have to be used. It is a tool we have, it is a apparatus we have, a device we have to serve Krishna. So with the ears that we have, we can hear Krishna. With the tongue that we have, we can chant Krishna's name and talk about Krishna. So there is so much use that this body can be put to in the service of Krishna. So it has to be taken good care of. That does not mean one should be obsessed with taking care of the body in the consciousness of bodily consciousness and get intoxicated by that. That is dangerous. So how to strike the balance then? Just enough for the body to stay alive, and beyond that, it's not real necessity for the body anything anymore. Everything else is actually, if we have anything extra, more than what is necessary for our maintenance of the body, that is a blessing by Krishna for using it in his service. Whether we have extra money, if we have more money than what is required to just maintain our body, what do we do with that money then? Use it in Krishna's service. It's a blessing, but it can become a curse if I use it for my sense gratification. You see that? So the excess, if there is any excess, it's not to feel guilty about it. Oh, I have excess. No, use it in Krishna's service. Make more impact in Krishna's, like preaching, for example. If I have extra time, use it in Krishna's service. If I have extra money, give it to those who are preaching. If I have some extra, for example, if I have some connection with somebody who is influential, so of course I don't need to flatter him to get anything for my subsistence, but I can go to him and see how I can engage him so that the service to Krishna can be spread at large, at scale. For example, if there is somebody, say, politically influential or financially, in the corporate world or something like that, he has some standing, or in the entertainment industry, whatever it is, there are so many industries. So if that person, if somebody, it's not that we actively try to pursue these people, no. In case there is some connection with these people, we should not take a single farthing from them for our own personal this thing, but we should engage them as much as possible in Krishna's service, because that will be good for him, and that will be good for many others also. Because just like George Harrison, for example, he was a musician and he got attracted by the Hare Krishna devotees, and then he became a devotee, and then because of him he sang these songs about Hare Krishna, and then they became popular all over the world, and so many people heard Hare Krishna. So that's how the Hare Krishna mantra can be spread. So the devotee empowers those who have this materialistic opulences, and then makes them into a tool of preaching. So it's not that because of the fame of that person he could spread Hare Krishna mantra so much. No, because his fame alone would not have been enough. It is only because of the touch of the devotee. So still the preachers are important. It's not that the musician is more important than the preacher. Not at all. Because unless he is guided by the preacher, how will he spread? So the devotees must know how to engage others in devotional service. For that, one has to be first of all exemplary, and then that's how it is done. So anyway, parimita bhoji, regulated eating and other habits, just as much as necessary, but if there is any excess, whether by contacts or whether by own money or strength or time or whatever, use it in Krishna's service. Shantaman, peaceful. He is very peaceful. Because he has nothing to... Why we are not peaceful? Because our sense gratification is disturbed and we have become frustrated. Or we want some sense gratification that we, hankering and lamenting, hankering and frustration. And these are the things that are going on in our mind. That is what is keeping us not peaceful. So if we have nothing to gain or lose in this world, then we will be peaceful. The moment we have something to gain or we want something in this world, the endeavor to get to that is not peaceful. So the devotee, he does endeavor, and he does take up a lot of anxiety, but on behalf of Krishna. The unique feature of such an anxiety is that he's actually, the more he engages in such anxiety, the more peaceful he is with himself. Do you know this? This is a very attractive feature in devotional service. It's not understood until we actually engage in such service. The anxiety to be to move a service forward, in that anxiety is actually complete peace of the devotee. And if he cannot engage in such anxiety, he will be anxious. This is a unique feature of devotional service. That's why even this what is it called, Vipralambha, the service in separation, that is more intense than the ecstasy of meeting. This is very difficult to understand. It's not easy to understand for a beginner or a materialist. But when we engage in Krishna's service, the more we work hard for Krishna, the more we become peaceful with ourselves. The more we become lazy, the more we become somehow or other not engaged in service, we will not be peaceful. That is a unique feature. So Shantaman, peaceful, that means he is taking full anxiety for Krishna. And he is engaged in all types of risks. Like Prabhupada went to, America, for example. He suffered 2 heart attacks on the ship, and it was an arduous journey. Now, that is definitely a lot of struggle. But how would he feel if he never embarked on that journey? You know how much anxious he was that he was not able to go to America, and he was trying everything that he could to go to America. Why? Not that he wanted to become a big business magnate. Oh, my American dream. No. He wanted to change the American nightmare. He went there to change the nightmare that the Americans were living in. What American dream? So that's what he was going for. Because they were living in complete mode of ignorance. They were like lost. The hippie movement. So he was going for that, and his real drive was that I have to fulfill the order of my spiritual master, and that is a much greater anxiety than dying while serving Krishna. Heart attack and everything, and even going there, it's not just one heart attack. Oh, this is 2 days over. That's all his difficulty? No, of course not. I mean, how much difficult it is when he went there, no money, and he was so cold. He never faced that cold in his life. He never saw snow in his life. But when he went to America, everywhere snow. Winter was very bad in America, and he had to deal with all of that and practically alone. And Prabhupada used to say, I'm at the fag end of my life. So, not easy at all. Not easy at all. And that's when you don't have devotees around you. But when you have devotees, when you have temples, when you have the movement, there are so many issues to manage. And that requires a lot of tolerance, that requires a lot of effort. But Prabhupada was happy in the midst of all of that. Because that's what his life is meant for. I mean, as devotees, what is our life for then? If we don't engage, if we are not entrenched in the service of Krishna, what are we actually living for? So we will feel our life as fruitless. So only when we take full anxiety in Krishna's service, then only we will be completely peaceful. Prabhupada said, the best way to control the mind and be peaceful is to tax our brain how to push on this movement. Tax our brain, Prabhupada said. So that is the formula. That is Shantaman. Aniha, apathy to materialism. He has zero regards for materialism, whether good or bad. He has zero regard for that. Dhriman, patience. Especially in the spiritual realm. Utsahan nischayat dhairyat. Dhairyat means patience. Apramatta, attentive, alert. Apramatta means very alert. He's not, drunk. And not just drunk, he's alert. this can, each of these words, I mean, these are so deep at all levels. So alert means what? He's always watching around for somebody to know. What alert? Alert in the matter of identifying where Maya is, for example. Alert in the matter of service. For example, if there is a new person coming into the temple, alert. Okay, make him contribute something to the temple. Give him a book. Give him the chanting beads. Preach to him. You see? Get him volunteer for them some service. Something, engage. Not that, dull. Alert in every way. And alert with ourselves. Observing our mind, where it is going. Everything. And any opportunity, immediately grab onto it and know how to use it for Krishna's service. Like if there is some new technology, we have to be alert. Okay, how this can be used in Krishna's service. Not that, this is technology, this is Maya. Maya is when we do not use it in Krishna's service. But a devotee should be expert in how to use it in Krishna's service. So, alert in every way. Then, Sugambhira, very grave. Because this is a very important matter of life. It's not something to be joked about. In fact, once Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture and it was quite funny the way he expressed something it was. But then everybody was laughing. Of course, Prabhupada had a very, very exceptional sense of humor and transcendental humor. Such a humor not only is, it makes you laugh, but also enlightens you actually, right? It's not just like meaningless jokes, like many jokes are superficial. I mean, they don't carry much meaning, but Prabhupada's jokes are very heavy with meaning at the same time. And at the same time, it can be very light-hearted. So, that is real humor. And I have commented on one devotee in ISKCON who is doing some jokes, but all cheap jokes, like nothing to do with spiritual life and, just making people laugh like a comedian, like a stand-up comedian. And even those were not as good. So, this is not the same as Prabhupada's sense of humor, which is completely divine, transcendental. But at the same time, so once what happened, so devotees were laughing. And Prabhupada said this is a serious topic, not a subject for laughter. So if it does not mean that we cannot laugh, but of course Prabhupada himself laughed many times. But the thing is, this is a very serious thing and we have to be Sugambhira, very grave means we have to be always conscious of life and in general. Like how grave means to be grounded in spiritual understanding and realization. If we become too moved by material happiness, or if we become too depressed by material onslaught or a reversal, that's not being grave. Grave means deep, so it's not easily agitated, like the ocean, which is grave. Apuryamanam machala pratishtham samudramapah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kāmayam pravashanti sarve sashantimapnoti sakama kāmi sashantimapnoti nakama kāmi. See 270. So you see, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So this is grave. The ocean is grave. Very, very deep, and it is not agitated by tons and tons and tons of water that is entering into it every second from the rivers. You see that? So, but when the moon rises, the full moon, there is a tide, the ocean becomes agitated. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was described like that, but although he was like the ocean, grave, but when the moon of Krishna rose within his heart, he was, whenever that, all these ecstatic feelings rise, and then he is agitated like the high tide of the ocean. So even such a grave thing can be agitated by the moon. So similarly, the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was agitated by the moon of Krishna. So in that way, so grave, one should be very grave. It means not too agitated by material conveniences or inconveniences. Vijita Shadguna, conquering over the 6 gunas: hunger, thirst, lamentation, envy, old age and death. Means being same in all circumstances, only focusing on the advancement, spiritual advancement. Amani, not expecting honor from others. Manada, giving respect to others. Amanina manadena. Daksha, skillful. Of course, we can go on describing each of these words even more and more detail, but you get the point. Daksha, skillful in everything. Like you see, Śrīla Prabhupāda, you see, he was good in singing, he was good in managing, he was good in writing, he was good in writing songs, and he was good in cooking, he was good in training everybody, preaching, speaking, everything he was good in. Daksha, expert. So the more a devotee becomes advanced, the more he will become expert in serving Krishna in every way possible. Not that he doesn't know how to do this, how to do that. He should know. Devotee should know how to do everything in service of Krishna. Avanchaka, non-hypocritical. Very important. Jnani, knowledgeable of the scriptures. Not that he is a dumb fool, He should be completely in knowledge of the scriptures. So, these are the qualities of sadhu. By these characteristics, one can know who is a sadhu. However, here there are 2 types of characteristics: principal and marginal. Principal characteristic is exclusive surrender to Krishna, while all others are dependent upon it. Very important point. Without surrender to Krishna, we cannot get the other qualities. Not that, I will become now non-violent, I will become tolerant. It is only done by becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness. By some good fortune, one may get the association of Vaiṣṇavas and then attain a taste for the name, chant the name, and take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. This becomes a chief characteristic, and by continuing to chant the name, all the other characteristics make their appearance. So, why Vaishnava aparad is an aparad against the name? Why Vaishnava aparad is a nama aparad? Because a Vaishnava is a person who has taken shelter of the name and who has gotten all these qualities. And he has gotten all these qualities because of taking shelter of the name. And because if we offend the person who has taken shelter of the name, such an offense to a person who has taken shelter of the name is an offense to the name itself. Just like offense to the devotee is offense to Krishna. Is a more serious offense to Krishna than offending Krishna himself. Similarly, Krishna and his holy name are non-different. So anyone who has taken shelter of the name of the Krishna, we have to not offend him also. This becomes a chief characteristic, and by continuing to chant the name, all the other characteristics make their appearance. Therefore, they are called marginal or accompanying. Though secondary to the principal characteristic, they will certainly appear in the body of a true Vaishnava or Sadhu as an effect of proper chanting of the holy name. So we have information of this in this particular verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. I think many of you already know this verse, 5:18-12. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunaiस्तत्र samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathena sati dhavato bhaihi. All the demigods and their exalted qualities such as religion, knowledge and renunciation become manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. See, every good quality automatically appears becomes manifest in the body of one who has developed unalloyed devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. On the other hand, a person devoid of devotional service and engaged in material activities has no good qualities. Even if he is adept at the practice of mystic yoga or the honest endeavor of maintaining his family and relatives, he must be driven by his own mental speculations and must engage in the service of the Lord's external energy. How can there be any good qualities in such a man? So anybody who is in the service of Maya, how can he have good qualities? Even though seemingly he may exhibit some good qualities in this world. What is his actual good quality? How valuable are his good qualities? Not much, because he rejects God. But a person who is surrendered to God, he has all good qualities automatically. And therefore, Sadhu is a person who is decorated with all these ornaments of good qualities. He does not have big ornaments on his body. He may not have. But he is ornamented by these good qualities. That's what really matters. What is the use if a person is ornamented by all jewelry but his behavior is crap? There's no use. You see, real jewelry is that his behavior, jewel-like behavior, jewel-like characteristics that he has. That is sadhu. Sadhur bhushan. Maryada rakshan hoy sadhur bhushan. What is that? Titikshava karunika suhridam sarvadehinam ajata shatrava shanta sadhava sadhu bhushanaha. Bhushana means the decorations of a devotee are these good qualities that are mentioned just now. So his chanting of the holy name and taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, it becomes the chief characteristic, and by continuing to chant the name, all other characteristics make their appearance. Therefore, they are called marginal or accompanying. Though secondary to the principal characteristic, they will certainly appear in the body of a true Vaishnava or Sadhu as an effect of proper chanting of the holy name. On the other hand, the status of Gṛhastha, Brahmachari, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi, Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahmana of the Varnashram system and their respective habits and qualities are external distinctions which in no way determine who is a Sadhu. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, there are, Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat. It means the qualities of those who are Daiva or devotees and those who are not, the demoniac and the divine. 16th chapter, 1st to 3rd verse. And also 13th chapter, 8th to 12th verse. Let's go to 16:1 to 3. You see, Abhayam Sattvasam Shuddhir Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Dānam Damascha Yajñascha Svadhyayastapa Arjavam Ahimsa Satyam Akrodhas Tyagah Shantirapaishunam Daya Bhuteshvaloluptvam Mardavam Harirachapalam Tejah Kshamadhritihi Shaucham Adroho Natimanita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, that means freedom from proprietorship or wanting to be a proprietor, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. So this is Daivi Sampat. Daivim, Sampadam Daivim. You see, Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim. Transcendental qualities. And these are qualities of a devotee. Whereas, when you see later on, 1842, this is Brahmana's qualities in the Varnashram system. Shamo damastapah shaucham kshantirarjavameva cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahmakarma svabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. These are external qualities. Yes, they also of course come from internal advancement. But a person who is a devotee, no matter what quality or what varna or ashrama he is in, It doesn't matter at all. He has all the good qualities, even more than that of a Brahmana. You see? This is Kshatriya. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Then there is farming, cow protection and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras there is labor and service to others. Now these are external things, but the internal, qualities that stem from devotional service, that's different. So although Brahmana, for example, kind of has similar qualities, right? Peacefulness, self-control, austerity. So Brahmanas need not necessarily be Vaishnavas. You see? Perfect Brahmana is a Vaishnava. And a Vaishnava is more than a Brahmana. He's a perfect Brahmana, of course. Brahma janati iti Brahmana. Basically, the definition of Brahmana is that he has to know Brahman. That means spiritual subject matter. He should be expert in spiritual subject matter. So, now Brahman can be Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, and of course, we are also Brahman. We are the small Brahman and then the Parabrahman. And then there's, in that Parabrahma understanding, there is Brahma, Paramatma and Bhagavan understanding. So, those who understand Brahman level, even they are considered Brahmana. You see? And they may have these peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity and all this to a certain extent. Not to the extent that a Vaishnava has them. Like for example, tolerance. He may be tolerant, yes, he is living simply and all that, but he has some pride that, I'm a Brahmana. You are not. There's some kind of, that's where the mode of passion comes in. So it is not Shuddha Sattva, not pure goodness. Predominantly in the mode of goodness, but not pure goodness. So, Brahmanas have these qualities, but not to the extent, in fact, very far away from the extent that a Vaishnava has them. A good example is, say, for example, Durvasa Muni and Ambarish Maharaj. Durvasa Muni not just was an ordinary Brahmana, he was a sage of not just national or international repute, but interplanetary repute. The whole universe knew him. He is so famous. Of that stature of Durvasa Muni, what kind of a degree of Brahmana he was. But you see, he's not as elevated as Maharaj Ambarish. And the other example is Vishwamitra Muni and Vasishtha. Of course, later on Vishwamitra Muni did become a Vaishnava, and then he got all good qualities. But before that, even though from Kshatriya he turned into a Brahmana, he was nowhere close to the qualities of Vasishtha. You see? So this is different, you see. The qualities of Vaishnava, another example is Parikshit Maharaj and the Brahmana boy Shringi. Shringi boy who cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die within 7 days, he was a Brahmana and his curse actually worked. But although Parikshit Maharaj could have counteracted that curse, he did not show any excessive and any power at all to counter that. He accepted it and he just humbly, accepted everything as the will of the Lord and, heard the entire Bhagavatam and left the body. The quality of tolerance. What did Parikshit Maharaj do? He just put a dead snake on this boy's father when he was meditating. It was not such a big offense. And in turn, what the boy did? He cursed him to die. How different are they? They're completely, unfair, right? Unfair. But Parikshit Maharaj was not trying to fight, oh, this is unfair, how did you do this, you should be considerate, or I will also curse you, try to be smart, with me, you don't know my power, Vishnu saved me when I was in the womb. He did not do any of that. What did he do? Alright, thank you for bringing me this news, because the messenger brought this news that, oh, you are cursed. Here, take this necklace. Thank you for giving me this news. He left. He was in the prime of his life at the time. He left. So, That's how he was so unattached to his position and his prestige and everything. But you see that Brahmana boy, there is an ocean of difference between the qualities of the Vaishnava and those of a Brahmana. So that's why it is said here. On the other hand, the status of Grihastha, Brahmachari, Vanaprastha and Sannyasi, Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Brahmana of the Varnashram system and their respective habits and qualities are external distinctions which in no way determine who is a sadhu. The chief characteristic of a sadhu is his complete surrender to Krishna, which is not dependent on a certain varna or ashrama. This is important. Any person from anywhere can become surrendered to Krishna. It doesn't matter whether one is Shudra or Vaishya. If he is a Pakka devotee, 100%, then he is devotee. And he has all the good qualities automatically. Even though, like Hunter, that Mrigari, became complete Vaishnava. Through the example of Raghunath Das, Sri Caitanya taught how the Gṛhastha-Vaiṣṇava should act. So I think Himanshu has shared some links. So I would request Himanshu Prabhu, kindly what you do, because if you just put a link like that, I wouldn't know what it is for and I can't check it from here. So if you can just put, okay, this is the title or this is the subject and this is the link, so then I can show it on the screen. Okay, this is the title and this is the link. If you just show the link, I don't know what it is for also. I've lost the context. So yeah, I'll appreciate if you can do that for me, because today the moderator is, I think, busy, could not attend. So it will be helpful if you can do that for me. Thank you very much. So through the example of Raghunath Das, Sri Caitanya taught how the Gṛhastha-Vaiṣṇava should act. The married man should enter the household life with a mind steadily fixed on service to Krishna, not enamored by sense gratification. And in this way, the householder can gradually cross the ocean of material existence. Instead of playing as a false renunciate, Markata Vairagi, enjoying with the senses in the cloth of a sannyasi, it is better to take only those things necessary for survival in the material world while cultivating non-attachment. One should always be internally fixed on Krishna, though externally one may act according to one's social custom in Varna and Ashrama. Krishna quickly delivers such Gṛhastha-Vaiṣṇavas. See, Raghunath Goswami was very soon delivered, you see. But the deliver, first of all, we want to be delivered, but when we see Raghunath Das Goswami's, what was the deliverance of Raghunath Das Goswami? He actually went and joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a complete sannyasi. So, many Grihasthas will be, I mean, it's natural, I am not criticizing them, but it is horrifying for Grihastha to think that, oh, Krishna delivered him means that is what is delivery. So I don't want the delivery. How many actually want such a deliverance? That one can give up everything and surrender to Krishna. It's not easy. You see? But we must know that that is where we need to get to. It's not that, oh yeah, let me just stay here in the Gṛhastha ashram. Anyway, we cannot stay. By death or disagreement or whatever, by knowledge, we have to separate ultimately. And doing it with knowledge is the best way. Not by disagreement, not by death. When Raghunath Das gave up household life, the Lord gave him instruction on the life of renunciation. What is the instruction? One should neither listen to materialistic conversations nor speak materialistic topics to others. One should not eat fancy food or wear fancy clothing. One should always chant the holy name, respecting all without expecting honor, and meditate on eternal service to Radha and Krishna in Vraja within one's mind. So this is explained in this Antya Leela. Bhalana khaibe, bhalana podibe. Gramya Katha. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela 6.236. Gramya Katha na shunibe, Gramya Varta na kohibe, Bhalana khaibe or Bhalana podibe. Do not talk like people in general or hear what they say. You should not eat very palatable food, or nor should you dress very nicely. So, especially materialistic conversations, there is so much Grammikatha now going on. You see, Grammikatha is, social media is full of Grammikatha everywhere. All kinds of Grammikatha is going on. So, Grammikatha na shunibe, Grammik vartha na kohibe. Nor should we really be commenting on those, nor should we be hearing those. So, you see, we need to know how to conduct ourselves. Amani manada hoya Krishna nama sada lobe vraje radha Krishna seva manase karibe. Do not expect honor, but offer all respect to others. Always chant the holy name of Krishna, and within your mind render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So this is, you see, let's read the small purport. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya. Amrita Pravaha Bhashya is the commentary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur on Caitanya Charitamrita. He says that when a man and woman are married, they beget children and are thus entangled in family life. Talk concerning such family life is called Grammikatha. A person in the renounced order never indulges in either hearing or talking about such subjects. He should not eat palatable dishes, since that is unfit for a person in the renounced order. He should show all respect to others, but should not expect respect for himself. In this way, one should chant the holy name of the Lord and think how to serve Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. This should be the psychology of a devotee, of a renunciate. Not only renunciate, I mean everybody. Every devotee, in fact. Whichever varna or ashrama one is in. The principal characteristic is one. So again, coming back to the qualities of a sadhu, the principal characteristic or the principal quality is one, namely surrender to Krishna's name, which will prevail in all sadhus no matter what varna or ashrama, grihastha or sannyasi. However, according to ashrama or varna, the secondary characteristics will differ to some degree. And even if there appears some bad element or fault in a person, if he has the chief characteristic, surrender to Krishna, he must be considered a sadhu and to be respected and served by all. This is Krishna's statement in Bhagavad Gita. You know which one, right? 9.30. Apichayat sudura acharo bhajate mamananya bhak sadhureva samantavyah samyak vyavasito hisaham samyak vyavasito hisaham. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. See, actually this purport is very instructive. You can go and read this purport. It's a very interesting and important purport also by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It is mentioned. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoted there. Maybe, because this is sadhu, right? We'll rather read this purport. The word suduracharaha used in this verse is very significant, and we should understand it properly. Because durachara means misbehaved, sudurachara means very misbehaved. So why is it used in connection with a sadhu, and still why is he considered a sadhu if it's so badly misbehaved? So what is it? It is explained now. When a living entity is conditioned, he has two kinds of activities. One is conditional and the other is constitutional. Conditional means according to our social position we have to, act in a certain way. And then there is constitutional activities, which are our devotional service, which are our real spiritual activities. Conditional and constitutional. As for protecting the body or abiding by the rules of society and state, certainly there are different activities even for the devotees in connection with the conditional life, and such activities are called conditional. Besides these, the living entity who is fully conscious of his spiritual nature and is engaged in Krishna consciousness or the devotional service of the Lord has activities which are called transcendental. Such activities are performed in his constitutional position and they are technically called devotional service. Now, in the conditioned state, sometimes devotional service and the conditional service in relation to the body will parallel one another. You see? So they have to be done, they both have to be done in the conditioned state. But then again, sometimes these activities become opposed to one another. This is the thing. Sometimes they are favorable, sometimes they are opposing. As far as possible, a devotee is very cautious so that he does not do anything that could disrupt his wholesome condition. He knows that perfection in his activities depends on his progressive realization of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes, however, it may be seen that a person in Krishna consciousness commits some act which may be taken as most abominable socially or politically. But such a temporary fall down does not disqualify him. In the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam it is stated that if a person falls down but is wholeheartedly engaged in the transcendental service of the Supreme Lord, the Lord, being situated within his heart, purifies him and excuses him from that abomination. The material contamination is so strong that even a yogi fully engaged in the service of the Lord sometimes becomes ensnared. But Krishna consciousness is so strong that such an occasional fall down is at once rectified. Therefore, the process of devotional service is always a success. No one should deride a devotee for some accidental fall down from the ideal path, for, as explained in the next verse, such occasional fall downs will be stopped in due course as soon as the devotee is completely situated in Krishna consciousness. This does not mean that, okay, you know what, I'll just repeatedly fall down and nobody should point finger at me. Understand? And I'll continue to be Guru. You are my disciple. Never mind, I fall down. You should not. You should consider me like Brahma who seemingly fell down, but nonsense. This is nonsense. So, if one is a devotee and falling down and rising, yes, he should not be derided. He should be helped. But a Guru doing it, he is not qualified to be a Guru, first of all. I mean, steady yourself first before you can be Guru of anybody else, right? So, this person is not qualified to be a Guru. Yeah. So it's not that, no finger can be pointed at him. No. When there's cheating going on, see, one should be honest. If I am falling down, I should be honest enough saying that, no, I cannot be Guru. I should be humble, I should be repentant, I should be everything like that. But if I think, I can still be Guru, I fall down, never mind. Sorry, it happens Kali Yuga, Kali Yuga, Maya is so strong. This is a nonsense. There's no honesty there. Immediately such a person should be rejected. And he should be pointed out for everybody else's benefit so that they don't fall for him. So, no one should deride a devotee for some accidental fall down from the ideal path. For, as explained in the next verse, such occasional fall downs will be stopped in due course as soon as the devotee is completely situated in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness and is engaged with determination in the process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, should be considered to be in the transcendental position even if by chance or accident he is found to have fallen. The words Sadhureva, he is saintly, are very emphatic. They are a warning to the non-devotees that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly even if he has accidentally fallen down. And the word mantavyaha is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then one is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service, because that is the primary characteristic. And if he doesn't seem to have some of the secondary or marginal characteristics, we should see whether he has a primary characteristic or not. If he has, then he should still be respected because he is still properly situated in his determination. But if he is not properly situated in the spiritual determination, then yes. And if he is cheating in that regard, what is properly situated in determination in spiritual life? One must be following the order of the spiritual master. What is that? 241. Vyavasayatmaka buddhi ekeha kurunandana. Yes, that is the word. Ekeha kurunandana. he is fixed in the determination. That is the determination. Those who are resolute on this path, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one, and the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. So, you see, and in the purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually writes in his commentary of Bhagavad Gita, as a commentary to this particular verse, he says the one has to be fixed ekeha kurunandana. His ekeha means one should be fixed in the executing the order of the spiritual master. And Srila Prabhupada especially mentioned this, that very description, drove him to go to America to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. So that is spiritual determination. So if he is determined in that way, then yes. But you see these cheating gurus that are going on in ISKCON right now, they have faltered in that determination. And it's not accidental fall down, it's deliberate disobedience. That is very different from accidental fall downs. Deliberate disobedience, and also guiding others on such fault. You see, guiding others also to make the same fault, or rather misguiding them. Oh, we haven't finished that purport, right? In the Narasimha Purana, the following statement is given. Bhagavati chahara vananya cheta bhrishamalinopi virajate manushya nahi shashakalusha chabhi kadachit timira para bhavatam upayati chandra. The meaning is that even if one is fully engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, is sometimes found engaged in abominable activities, these activities should be considered to be like the spots that resemble the mark of a rabbit on the moon. Such spots do not become an impediment to the diffusion of moonlight. Similarly, the accidental fall down of a devotee from the path of saintly character does not make him abominable. On the other hand, one should not misunderstand that a devotee in transcendental devotional service can act in all kinds of abominable ways. This verse only refers to an accident due to the strong power of material connections. Devotional service is more or less a declaration of war against the illusory energy. As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there may be accidental fall downs. See that? As long as one is not strong enough to fight the illusory energy, there will be fall downs. So how can he be guru if he is not strong enough? How can he lead others? He himself has to first of all follow. So a guru cannot fall down. This is nonsense philosophy. But when one is strong enough, he is no longer subjected to such fall downs as previously explained. No one should take advantage of this verse and commit nonsense and think that he is still a devotee. If he does not improve in his character by devotional service, then it is to be understood that he is not a high devotee, not a very high grade devotee. And one should actually stay away from such a devotee who is not willing to make any advancement or correction or repentance. So this is Krishna's statement in Bhagavad Gita about Sadhu. When one has developed a taste for chanting the pure name, it is said that chanting just one time will destroy the influence of all past sins. Some remnants of those sins may still remain, but they will completely vanish by the influence of the holy name. Since these traces of sin will quickly go, that person is known as the most righteous person. Of course, if the materialist sees those traces of sin in a Vaiṣṇava sadhu, he may consider that the sadhu is just like a materialistic sinner. If he should criticize the sadhu because the sadhu has a trace of sin coming from previous sinful activity, he is committing sadhu ninda. He is to be considered a rascal because of his fault of criticizing a Vaishnava. And by this nama aparad, offense unto the one who has surrendered to the name, he falls directly under the wrath or anger of Krishna. You see? So, this is going on. So, there are people whose business in life is to only offend devotees. Such rascals are there. And, they fall directly under the wrath of Krishna. And they will get their dues, in time. It is concluded that one who is solely devoted to Krishna and sings his name is known as a sadhu. Other than the devotees of Krishna, no one else is considered to be a sadhu. This is important. Not that, this is also sadhu, that is also sadhu. No, he is not a sadhu. He is a rascal. And who is rascal? Who is not sadhu? It will also be explained. You see, one who considers himself a sadhu is filled with material pride. But one who thinks himself to be the lowest rascal, humbly takes shelter of Krishna and sings Krishna's name is the real sadhu. Knowing himself to be less than a blade of grass, considering himself like a tree of tolerance, not expecting honor for himself and giving honor to all other living entities, he chants the name and attains attraction for Krishna. This is basically Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Trinadapi Sunichana verse. If a person of the above qualities chants the holy name even once, he is considered a Vaiṣṇava and should be respected. The Vaiṣṇava is the friend and spiritual leader of the universe. This is Vaiṣṇava, not just ordinary qualification, you see. He is the spiritual leader of the universe. He is an ocean of mercy to all living entities. Whoever criticizes such a Vaiṣṇava goes to hell birth after birth. For there is no path for real liberation other than Bhakti, and Bhakti is obtained only by the mercy of the Vaiṣṇavas. In the pure Vaiṣṇava resides Krishna's energy of Bhakti, Hladani and Samvit. Thus, by contacting a Vaiṣṇava, one can also receive Krishna Bhakti. For this reason also, the food remnants, the foot water and the foot dust from the pure Vaishnavas are three powerful articles for creating Bhakti. Bhakta pada dhuli ar bhakta pada jal, bhakta bhukta avasesha teen mahabal. Antya, CC Antya 1660. Three very important things from a sadhu. What are they? Bhakta pada dhuli ar bhakta pada jal, bhakta bhukta avasesha teen mahabal. The dust of the devotee of the dust of the feet of a devotee, the water that has washed the feet of a devotee, and the remnants of food left by a devotee are three very powerful substances. By rendering service to these three, one attains the supreme goal of ecstatic love for Krishna. In all the revealed scriptures, this is loudly declared again and again. Therefore, my dear devotees, please hear from me, for I insist again and again. Please keep faith in these three and render service to them without hesitation. From these three, one achieves the highest goal of life, ecstatic love of Krishna. This is the greatest mercy of Lord Krishna. The evidence is Kalidas himself. So anyway, these three are mentioned. So of course, we should also follow the instruction of the pure devotee, right? Not just touch his feet and drink Harināma and eat the prasadam and then not follow anything. But if one with faith follows these three, one will automatically, of course, follow the instructions of such a person. Why these three are mentioned and not instruction? Because you see, one cannot really follow the instruction unless one is so humble enough that one takes the dust and the water that has washed his feet. To wash somebody's feet and drink that water, how much respect we should have for that person, right? If not, how will we artificially do it? And how can we eat the remnants of their food? We will say, hey, don't give it to me. Ordinary devotees is a different thing. Exalted devotees is a different thing. So unless one respects such a person, he will not take it with honor. In fact, he will reject. So to be able to do that, how humble one must be. So of course, in that state of mind, one will be very eager to fulfill the instructions of such a devotee. So that's why these three are mentioned, because With these three, automatically the following instructions also will come. So we have to do it with full, understanding and faith. See? But that's why I say three powerful substances. So, the food remnants, the food water, and the food dust from the pure Vaiṣṇavas are three powerful articles for creating bhakti. If one stays near a pure Vaiṣṇava for some time, one can receive the bhakti energy flowing from his body. Now, this can be easily quoted by the physical Guruvadis, those who say that one must have physical association of a Guru. See, if one stays near a pure Vaiṣṇava, but then he stays there unfavorably, he will not receive this bhakti energy flowing. The real proximity to a Vaiṣṇava is not just by the body, is by the instruction. How close is one to the instruction of such a pure devotee? That's how close he is to that pure Vaiṣṇava. If one stays near a pure Vaiṣṇava, you see, here of course it is said energy flowing from his body. But you should understand that the body of the spiritual master is spiritual and he is not different from his instruction. What if I am near the spiritual master, but my intentions are not to serve the spiritual master, but I have something else in my mind? And that's how some of the so-called gurus have done it in the presence of Prabhupada. In the so-called physical presence of Srila Prabhupada, they wanted to take over the movement. And the moment he left this world physically, that was the very moment they thought, wow, now we are the kings. This thing happened. So what kind of consciousness is that in the proximity of a devotee? Did they get the mercy of Prabhupada? No, they did not. What happened? They became the cause of ruination for the whole movement because of their cheating. Not a single instruction of Prabhupada that they are asking them to become Guru. And they ruined the whole thing. So, staying near Vaishnava, like Prabhupada said, I never felt separation from my spiritual master although I was in America. I mean, his spiritual master was physically long gone. 1937, January 1st, gone. It is 1965, 66, 30 years later. But he never felt separation because instruction. And then he felt the bhakti energy flowing from his spiritual master. So we have to understand this very, of course, if there is physical association and if one is respectful enough, one will feel this. But, sometimes familiarity breeds contempt and we may not be that respectful. Prabhupada said the two most dangerous services in devotional services, the pujari and the personal servant of the spiritual master. Why? Because they are so close to the deity and the spiritual master that they may become even a little bit slackened or not having that much respect towards the deity and the spiritual master. Thinking them, because they are so easily available, so they don't value it as much. I mean, it's not that everybody does like that, but the risk is very much there. That's why it's a very dangerous service. One has to be very careful in such service. Because these things can happen. So now, if one stays near a pure Vaishnava for some time, one can receive the bhakti energy flowing from his body. If one can bind that energy within one's heart after having developed strong faith, bhakti will develop and one's body will begin to tremble in ecstasy. Thus, by living close to a Vaishnava, soon devotion will appear in one's heart. First, such a person, that's why, this is the reason why Srila Prabhupada gave us the temple, the format of the temple. So, physical association with spiritual master was not even had when Prabhupada was physically around in this world. He was traveling and devotees hardly were with him. So, what physical proximity was there, even in those times, except for a very few of them? So, the real proximity is to the instruction of the spiritual master, but still, of course, physical proximity is definitely helpful, and therefore he created a society of devotees. and temple and institution, so that devotees who follow the instruction of the spiritual master, the association of such devotees also is very covetable, desirable. So we should desire such association of such devotees who are following strictly the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. It is as good as having the association of a pure devotee. Thus, by living close to a Vaishnava, soon devotion will appear in one's heart. So this is the reason why we have to always be with the association of devotees. We should not stay aloof from the association of devotees. See? First, such a person will begin chanting the holy name, and then by the power of the holy name, he will receive all good qualities. This is the particular power of the Uttama Adhikari. See, Uttama Adhikari, not talking about some cheapskate Vaishnava, Vaishnava is not cheapskate, but third class devotee is a very low quality of devotee. But here we are talking about the association of a Uttama Adhikari, the first class devotee. But the real proximity is of the instruction. A Vaishnava may be criticized on 4 counts. So there's 4 causes of criticism that may happen. So this is very analytically described here. He is caste by birth. Oh, these are not proper Brahmins, so they are coming from America. China. What is Vaishnava from China? If one is doing that, that is offensive. Vaishnava Aparadha. He is caste by birth, previous sins or faults in this life. An unpremeditated accidental act of sin. So even, for example, this previous sins or faults in this life. So whatever he has done previously, one should not criticize a Vaishnava based on what he was doing. And another thing is unpremeditated accidental act of sin. You see, that also should not be criticized. And present traces of previous sinful activity. Maybe still may be carrying some of those habits, maybe attitudes or whatever. So though all these conditions may be present in a Vaishnava, they are insubstantial grounds for criticism of a Vaishnava. Now, I would like to actually add something here. Because apart from these 4, there are also fabricated things made up without any basis in any of these 4. Such a thing is, I don't know what to even say. And there are some so-called rascals, rascals in the garb of devotees. They are doing this, fabricating all kinds of stories and then offending devotees and exalted devotees. I have seen this. Some of you may also know. So such rascals exist in this world. So Kṛṣṇa will definitely take them to task. For sure. You just have to wait and see. Of course, we shouldn't be tolerant to such blasphemy of true Vaishnavas. But given today's context, what can we do? Let Krishna handle. And let's see. So, though all these conditions may be present in a Vaishnava, they are insubstantial grounds for criticism of a Vaishnava. And such, to add to that example, to add to that point of fabricated offenses, fabricated lies and offending based on those lies. There was a good story of, who was that? Srivas Pandit, who was criticized of being a Shakta, a worshipper of, let's see if I can find that. Chapal Gopal. This is This is the story actually. Adilila chapter 17. If we go, maybe we'll go to the summary of this chapter. Not much is given. So if we go here, just give me a moment here. You see, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly led congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna. I am reading from the CC Adilila 17.34 onwards. You see, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly led congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the house of Srivas Thakur every night for 1 full year. This is Srivas Angan, it is called. This ecstatic chanting was performed with the doors closed so that non-believers who came to make fun could not gain entrance. Thus the non-believers almost burned to ashes and died out of envy. To retaliate, they planned various ways to give trouble to Srivas Thakur. One night while Kirtan was going on inside Srivas Thakur's house, a Brahmana named Gopal Chapal, the chief of the non-believers, who was talkative and very rough in his speech, placed all the paraphernalia for worshipping the goddess Durga outside Srivas Thakur's door. On the upper portion of a plantain leaf, he placed such paraphernalia for worship as odorful, turmeric, vermilion, red sandalwood and rice, all paraphernalia for Durga worship. He placed a pot of wine beside all this, and in the morning when Srivas Thakur opened his door, he saw this paraphernalia. Srivas Thakur, you see how he dealt with it. So what he wanted to show is that, oh, this person is a Shakta, he is not actually a Vaiṣṇava, he is just a fake. He's doing this, black worship, you see, dark worship, dark arts. You see, so he was talking, Srivas Thakur called for all the respectable gentlemen of the neighborhood, he himself, Srivas Thakur himself, and smilingly addressed them as follows: Gentlemen, every night I worship the goddess Bhavani. Since the paraphernalia for the worship is present here, now all you respectable Brahmanas and members of the higher castes can understand my position. See what kind of a cheater I am. He just took it, he just rode with it. Then all the assembled gentlemen exclaimed, What is this? What is this? Who has performed such mischievous activities? Who is that sinful man? They immediately understood he was a genuine Vaishnava, and then they called for a sweeper, Hadi, who threw all the items of worship far away and cleansed the place by mopping it with a mixture of water and cow dung. They are considered inauspicious items, you see. I mean, of course, turmeric and all these are auspicious, but anything for the worship of Durga and Kali, which is done by sometimes even wine, you see, wine and meat sometimes, not auspicious, in the mode of ignorance. It was cleaned up. After 3 days, leprosy attacked Gopal Chapal and blood oozed from sores all over his body. Vaishnava aparadha, ninda. This is a fabricated offense. So it was not even, Srivas Thakur did not, none of these 4 things apply to this offense, right? Just now we have read, what is that? His caste that he is born in, or the race, and then his previous mistakes in this life, remnants of his past habits, and what is that last one? Something, the effects of past activity even now, that is, or accidental fall down, or the past habits that are even visible now, traces of those habits. So this comes under none of these 4. This is a complete fabrication. Just create a lie, and then so that he will get disrepute. So there are people like that, and we have also practical experience here. Who does somebody who does that? So this kind of nonsense people are there. And what happened? Leprosy attacked Gopal Chapal, and blood oozed from sores all over his body. Incessantly covered with germs and insects biting him all over his body, Gopal Chapal felt unbearable pain. His entire body burned in distress. Since leprosy is an infectious disease, Gopal Chapal left the village to sit down on the bank of the Ganges underneath a tree. One day, however, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passing by and spoke to him as follows: "My dear nephew, I am your maternal uncle in our village relationship. Please see how greatly this attack of leprosy has afflicted me. As an incarnation of God, you are delivering so many fallen souls. I am also a greatly unhappy fallen soul. Kindly deliver me." Hearing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared greatly angry, and in that angry mood he spoke some words chastising him. "O sinful person, envious of pure devotees, I shall not deliver you." See, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also doesn't, how merciful, very merciful, but doesn't deliver if you are a Vaishnava Aparadhi. "Rather, I shall have you bitten by these germs for many millions of years. You have made Srivas Thakur appear to have been worshipping the goddess Bhavani. Simply for this offense, you will have to fall down into hellish life for 10 million births. Koti Janma. I have appeared in this incarnation to kill the demons, Pashandis, and after killing them to preach the cult of devotional service." After saying this, the Lord left to take his bath in the Ganges, and that sinful man did not give up his life but continued to suffer. This is important. Such an offender will not die also, he will suffer. See, purport. It appears that an offender to a Vaishnava continues to suffer and does not give up his life. We have actually seen that a great Vaishnava Aparadhi continuously suffered so much that it was difficult for him to move, and yet he did not die. So you see, this is how dangerous it is to play with fire. But some people think it's fun. Let them think like that. Eventually, one will get the dues. So, though all these conditions may be present in a Vaishnava, what are they? Again, caste by birth, previous sins or faults in this life, an unpremeditated accidental act of sin, and present traces of previous sinful activity. And to add to that, a fabricated nonsense, completely baseless lie, and then offending based on that. One who so blasphemes a Vaishnava will be punished by Yamaraj. Because the Vaishnava is spreading the glories of the Lord's name, the Lord does not tolerate such criticism of a Vaishnava. Giving up dharma, yoga, sacrifice and jnana for the name of Kṛṣṇa, the Vaishnava is the topmost person. Criticism is a serious offense. Furthermore, he does not criticize the scriptures or the demigods, but simply takes shelter of the name. One should rather eagerly take the dust from the feet of a Vaishnava, regardless of whether he is a Gṛhastha or sannyasi. One should rather eagerly take the dust from the feet of a Vaishnava, regardless of whether he is a Gṛhastha or sannyasi. One will treat him only according to his advancement as a Vaishnava, which is based upon his degree of attraction to the holy name. That's what really should be seen, not whether he is a Gṛhastha, his Gṛhastha is lesser than this brahmachari or lesser than the sannyasi. No, if he is attached to the holy name, that is the real qualification. Such things as caste or ashrama, wealth, learning, youthfulness, beauty, strength or number of followers are not factors. You see? It goes without saying that one who has taken shelter of the name will not indulge in sadhu ninda. Because he knows that if he has taken shelter of the holy name, he knows not to offend others who have taken shelter of the holy name. One who criticizes a sadhu is not situated in bhakti but in aparadha against bhakti. A serious person therefore would not indulge in criticism but associate with, hear from and serve the sadhu. But we should know who is a sadhu. And a person who in the garb of a sadhu, who is cheating in the name of sadhu, that should be exposed. And that is not criticism, that is just honesty. That is different than criticizing a sadhu for no reason. Because association with those who are not devotees is bound to produce disrespect for devotees, sadhu ninda. So this is another aspect of sadhu ninda. Now in this paragraph something else is being explained now. To associate with non-devotees is also sadhu ninda. This is very subtle. This is very profound, in fact. See this, by association with those who are not devotees, because association with those who are not devotees is bound to produce disrespect for devotees, sadhuninda, the devotee is careful to avoid such association. Materialistic association or asat sangha is of two types: association with women and association with those devoid of devotion to the Lord. Association with women means associating with women not according to Vedic tradition. So what is associating with women according to Vedic tradition? Mathurā paradareshu. One can only associate with one's wife, that too not overindulging, and with other women as much as is necessary only for service. That's it. Not dilly-dallying and all these things. See, this association with women which is not authorized by scripture is divided into association with women outside of marriage for the purpose of sex life, and association within marriage where one is controlled by one's wife. See? Association of women within marriage where one is controlled by one's wife, that is also asat sangha. Thus, only if one is married according to prescribed rules and is following the rules for married life, in which the wife is submissive to the husband and the husband acts as a sadhu, is the association considered bona fide. Other types of association are considered asat. The second type of asat, so that is trisangi. Eka sadhu, Krishna abhakta ar. The second type of asat association with non-devotees, is of three types. Now, talking about trisangi, this is transcendental. Srila Prabhupada mentioned it once in his... I was actually quite surprised when I found that conversation. Of course, both Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur are pure devotees. But, sometimes when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was in seemingly apparent disagreement with Bhaktivinoda Thakur for some reason, he would call his own father Nari Sangi. Nari means woman, and Sangi means associate of woman. You are just an associate of woman. He used to criticize his father like that. Not always, sometimes. And that is a transcendental, we cannot comment on the relationship like that. But of course, he was extremely respectful to Bhaktivinoda Thakur also. If you see his writings and his speeches, he took him as Shiksha Guru. But in their dealings as father and son, sometimes he expressed himself like that, Nari Sangi. How strict Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was that he called even Bhaktivinoda Thakur as Nari Sangi. And what was Bhaktivinoda Thakur? He spent only 15 minutes with his wife every day. That's all. And of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur had, I think, one wife who passed away very early. Then he married another one. And because of that, and he had so many children with her, so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to call him Nari Sangi, something like that. So strict Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was. So of course, it should not be considered that he was a Nari Sangi actually. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what is his stature? But, sometimes it can be asked that, what about those devotees, men who are controlled by their wives? Honestly, we had experience like that, of such devotees, and it was painful, to say the least. It was painful to associate with such Vaiṣṇavas who were completely controlled by their wives, and because of such womanly behavior, so much politics within the temple because of such behavior, and they used to support their wives, and it was just horrible. Anyway, that was past. They're not here right now, but these kind of things happen, you see. So we have to be careful, If the wife is cooperative, that's another thing. Of course, every woman controls the man. There's no man who is not controlled by a woman. That's why the only way to not be in touch is not to get entangled with them. But there are two ways of being controlled. One is by service, submissively, and the man is obliged to, feels obliged to protect such a woman and take care of her. And the other is bossing, controlling the man. The second one is the worst, but the first one also is bad, in the sense that it is good for the woman to be like that, and the man should not come under the sway of such a woman who is nicely serving him. He should guide her nicely, affectionately, but guide her nicely, like a disciple, like somebody who is, like an experienced devotee would guide another beginner devotee or an innocent person. So a husband should guide like that the wife, and affectionately guide the family to Krishna consciousness, not being personally attached. So it is difficult, it is easier said than done, but it is the ideal that we have to desire. At least we should know that is where we should be, and we should work towards that actively. So anyway, other types of association are considered asat. The second type of asat association with non-devotees, is of three types: association with Mayavadis, association with pretenders, and association with atheists. Again, non-devotees are classified as three: Mayavadis, pretenders, atheists, pretender devotees. So Mayavadis believe that the Lord and the Jivas are both temporary entities, and that the Lord's Murti form is material. So that is their problem. So we should not associate with such people. The pretenders, though without genuine devotion or renunciation, pretend to be devotees to make a living. The atheists do not believe in any form of God. Now these people may claim to be devotees and may be accepted by the public as such, but if one rejects such people, it is not considered sadhuninda. If one rejects such pretenders and such atheists and Mayavadis, that is not sadhuninda. But it is subjective. Sometimes those offenders will think that the real devotees are actually pretenders, and the pretenders are real devotees. So out of their own vision, they will see differently. They don't know how to analyze who is following the order of the spiritual master, who is not. They don't even know how to discern between what is right and what is wrong. And they come to conclusion that this is a pretender, so these have to be understood. Why? Again, Sadhu Shastra Guru, it's not just by my own mind. So, it may sound subjective, but if we evaluate by the instructions of Krishna and the spiritual master, it will be easier. And one has to be sincere in the whole thing. The atheists do not believe in any form of God. We have read this. So all this is, if we reject pretenders and Mayavadis and atheists, this is not sadhuninda. Even though he may pose as a sadhu, that is not sadhuninda. This is important. Furthermore, one who criticizes a person who gives up these asat people should also be rejected and avoided. You see, one who criticizes a person who gives up these asat people. Suppose a devotee goes and criticizes some Mayavadi philosopher or philosophy or atheism or pretension of devotional service, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They expose so many pretender devotees and smarta brahmanas who are actually sadhunindas. So they expose them, and that is not sadhuninda. And if somebody criticizes them for criticizing these atheists, these non-devotees, such a person also will fall down. And we should avoid the association of such people who criticize those who criticize the non-devotees. So this is also an important point. This is also considered sadhuninda. And we should not associate with even such people. And this is actually explained nicely by Madhvacharya. I don't know if you remember. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 47, Purport. Of course, this verse I think everybody knows, many devotees are Archāyāmeva Haraye Pūjāmyah Shraddhaye Hate Natad Bhakteshu Chanyeshu Sabhaktah Prakritah Smritah. A devotee who faithfully engages in the worship of the deity in the temple but does not behave properly toward other devotees or people in general is called a Prakrita Bhakta, a materialistic devotee, and is considered to be in the lowest position. Here, very important points are made by Madhvacharya. What is the time? Wow, 10 o'clock. I have read this before. You can read this on your own, but I'll just show this part of it. I'll just show this part. This whole purport is very important. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's and Madhvacharya's commentary is given in the purport here. Although this is not Prabhupada's purport, but these two very great acharyas are mentioned here. I'll just show you this part. I think in the beginning itself, Madhvacharya sorry. Yeah, this is the point I wanted to make. Kanishta Adhikari. Such a Kanishta Adhikari therefore is disturbed. Okay. Another symptom, this paragraph. Okay. Another symptom of the Kanishta Adhikari is that he is infatuated by the material qualifications of so-called great materialistic persons. You see, he is infatuated. Oh, this person is this person is that. And is too, he wants to be near those persons or something like that. He is infatuated by the material qualifications of so-called great materialistic persons. Having a bodily concept of life himself, he is attracted by material opulence and thus minimizes the position of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Such a Kanishta Adhikari therefore is disturbed if a second-class devotee criticizes the non-devotees of the Lord. See that? This is the point I wanted to make. In the name of compassion or kindness, a Kanishta Adhikari approves of the non-devotional activities of such materialistic men. We should be kind to them, we should not criticize them, or we should not educate them. Let them be where they are. Now, chapter 3, text 26 of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 29 of Bhagavad Gita. Don't disturb the materialistic people. I mean, a preacher knows how to implement those things, not a third-class person. So, in the name of compassion or kindness, a Kanishta Adhikari approves of the non-devotional activities of such materialistic men. Materialistic man is saying something nonsense. Oh, I did this, I did. Yeah, good. Oh, wow. I mean, Because the Kanishta Adhikari is ignorant of the higher realms of devotional service and the unlimited transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness, he sees devotional service merely as a religious aspect of life but thinks that life has many enjoyable and worthwhile non-devotional aspects. Therefore, he becomes angry when second-class devotees who are experiencing that Krishna is everything criticize the non-devotees. Madhvacharya says that such a person, because of his rudimentary faith in Krishna, is considered a devotee, but he is bhakta adhama, a devotee on the lowest standard. If such materialistic devotees follow the rules and regulations of deity worship, they will gradually be elevated to a higher standard and eventually become pure devotees of the Lord, unless they commit offences against other devotees, in which case their advancement will be checked. So this is a very important point. And he is actually considered borderline asat. Asat Sangha. He's engaging in sadhu ninda, his offense, nama aparad. So the strong preaching of devotees should not be criticized. In fact, that is the thing that will wake people up. But if people choose not to wake up, that's another thing. And if they find it offensive, then that's another thing. But that is the truth. And that should not be criticized. Once, what happened, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of his disciples, went on a preaching program to some city, and he gave a speech, and he was very sharp, very forceful with his speech, and then so many people got angry with him in the crowd. And some of the devotees came back to report to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, saying that, oh, this person, he doesn't know how to talk, he just spoke the truth so piercingly that it hurt the sentiments of those people, and now they are against us and all that. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I don't care. He spoke the truth, and for that he has to be then that is what I want, really. I want people to be bold enough to speak the truth in the face of adversity. Not that they will bend to the whims and fancies of materialistic people and stop speaking the truth and become their what is that word he uses? Flatterer? Sycophant. Sycophant means, just flatterer. We should not become flatterers of the materialistic people, but rather we have to correct them and bring them to the proper standard. And sometimes that means cutting their ego and, truth be spoken as it is. So, he actually criticized those devotees who found fault with such a strong preacher. And Prabhupada also like that. He never compromised. Some people, they consider compromise as a tactic. Oh, this is my tactic to eventually bring them. It will not work. I mean, you may politely say, but you have to say. It's not that I don't say and then let him what? Tell him right there. You can say it always nicely. But you have to say it. The truth. So therefore the serious devotee, furthermore one who criticizes a person who gives up these asat people should also be rejected and avoided. Therefore the serious devotee who gives up asat sangha which causes sadhu ninda. Asat sangha causes sadhu ninda. So association with non-devotees is actually sadhu ninda. Subtly, very subtly. So therefore the serious devotee who gives up asat sangha which causes sadhu ninda and exclusively takes shelter in the name will certainly receive the treasure of prema, love of Godhead. It may be observed that in order to proceed properly to prema, one must be able to distinguish the devotee from the non-devotee. When one has attained prema, after one has attained prema, he doesn't see any difference between the non-devotee and devotee, but in the course of progress, one must be able to see. Otherwise, we will behave wrongly. We will do sadhu ninda. We will consider the devotee as non-devotee and non-devotee as devotee. And we will do sadhu ninda. So we must know who is a devotee and who is a non-devotee. So it may be observed that in order to proceed properly to prema, one must be able to distinguish the devotee from the non-devotee. For one must avoid the aparadha of criticizing the devotee and seek his association, and simultaneously reject the non-devotee completely. So we should know whose association we have to take, whose association we have to avoid. If you do the wrong way, if you avoid the association of Vaiṣṇava and associate with the non-devotee, finish or advancement. Sangatyaga sato vritteha. Both things go together. One must furthermore be able to distinguish the types of Vaishnavas according to their spiritual advancement. These are of three types: the materialistic Vaishnava or Vaishnava Praya, almost a Vaishnava. This is the Kanishta Adhikari, Bhakta Adhama, third class devotee. Is he who has mediocre faith in Kṛṣṇa but has no service attitude to sadhus. This is Pakka third class. He has faith in Kṛṣṇa, that too mediocre, and has no service attitude towards sadhu. If one has no service attitude towards sadhu, he does not actually have complete faith in Kṛṣṇa. Because tadiyanam samarchanam, you have to worship the devotees, otherwise he is not a devotee himself. So that is a problem, a third class devotee. Actually such a person is not a Vaishnava but the dim image of a Vaishnava. Now we can just evaluate ourselves where we are. We are very close to this point here, Vaishnava Praya. We are not, as a person is not a Vaishnava, but a dim image of a Vaishnava. Almost a Vaishnava. Not Vaishnava yet. Vaishnava Abhas, a reflection of Vaishnava. However, if he is not a Vaishnava, how will he be permitted to associate with Vaishnavas who do not associate with non-Vaishnavas? An interesting question, right? So if he is not a Vaishnava, so the other Vaishnavas should not associate with him. And how will he get the association of those Vaishnavas in order to improve himself? Therefore, this person is considered to be at the beginning stage of a Vaishnava, Kanishta Vaishnava. So he should be given association of Vaishnava, to elevate him, not for the other Vaishnavas to associate with him and they also come down. No. He is to be helped. Association is to be given, not taken from him. Given to him. Therefore, this person is considered to be at the beginning stage of a Vaishnava, Kanishta Vaishnava, upon whom the actual fixed up Vaishnavas will bestow mercy so that he becomes purified. The next higher stage of Vaishnava is the Madhyama Bhakta, who can recognize the important position of the Lord's devotees and thus always associates with them. In faith, he is convinced of Krishna's position as the Lord, the Jivas as his eternal servants, the process of bhakti and the goal as prema. He shows mercy to the innocent, those who have a little faith, the Kanishta Bhaktas, by giving them Sambandha Jnana. And he avoids the enemies, Asatsanga, understanding the different effects of the different types of association. Even at this stage of Madhyama Bhakta, one is considered a pure Vaishnava, with the qualification of taking the real holy name, not Namabhas. Even here it is already a real holy name. Even at this stage of Madhyama Bhakta. So we can just see ourselves, you see, we are so far away from here also. So, Namabhas is something, not so cheap. And even Namabhas is only a semi-Vaishnava, half Vaishnava. Even at this stage of Madhyama Bhakta, one is considered a pure Vaishnava with the qualification of taking the real holy name, not Namabhas. As a real Vaishnava, he is able to distinguish a Vaishnava from a non-Vaishnava so that he may avoid Asatsanga and Sadhuninda and serve the advanced devotees. Actually, he must do this for his own advancement. So this is the reason why a second-class devotee, Madhyama Bhakta, does not fall down. Because he is properly situated in his relationships with all different types of living entities. And he therefore does not commit offenses. Whereas third-class devotee, he is a chaos. Complete chaos. So we should not remain in our third-class positions, but we should rise at least to the second-class position, if not first. He who experiences Krishna as the life and soul of everything and thus sees Krishna situated in everything and consequently does not make distinction between Vaishnava and non-Vaishnava but simply engages in relishing the nectar of the holy name is called the Uttama Vaishnava, the most advanced devotee. This is the topmost stage. Then you may ask, then if he does not see any difference between Vaishnavas and non-Vaishnavas, does he offend everyone then? Does he commit sadhuninda? Because a third-class devotee also cannot distinguish between Vaishnava and non-Vaishnava. But in the first-class platform, it is not that he cannot distinguish, he does not distinguish. If he wants, he can descend to the second-class platform and distinguish. But he does not distinguish. Because he is above these things, above these distinctions. He is just seeing everybody as a devotee. And he considers himself the greatest non-devotee. So this is, it's not that he is naive. These everybody is a devotee, but no, it is in his ecstasy that he sees like that. And everybody is serving Krishna except me. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Asura Sakala Payala Charana Vinoda Thakilo Bhosi. Asura Sakala Payala Charan Vinoda Thakilo Bhosi. That means All the asuras have already attained Krishna's lotus feet, being killed by him, but this Bhakti Vinod is still in this material world. How much greater of an asura I am? All those asuras are much better than me. They have attained Krishna. What about me? Of course, he is teaching us. But at the same time, he himself is feeling like that. He is thinking asuras are better than him. Asuras are also delivered already, but I am still here in the material world. How rascal I am! So that is Uttama Vaiṣṇavas. The Kanishta Bhakta performs his devotional service at the stage of Namabhas, whereas the Madhyama Vaishnava is actually qualified for the real holy name. So here it is said that Kanishta Bhakta performs at the stage of Namabhas, but he constantly goes back to Namaparad. In fact, he almost always is in the Namaparad. Once we avoid the offences, and then we will be more and more established in Namabhas. Whereas the Madhyama Vaishnava is actually qualified for the real holy name and can understand and discern the various offences in chanting the holy name. The Uttama Adhikari is above committing offence, as he sees Krishna expanded everywhere. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. It can be seen that it is important for the practitioner of bhakti, whether Kanishta or Madhyama Bhakta, to understand in his performance of sadhana his own position in devotional service according to his internal purity. First of all, one should know where I am standing. By doing this, one can avoid non-devotees asatsanga, and by this one can advance further. Therefore, it is important that one come to the position of Madhyama Bhakta, one who is qualified to make these distinctions. The typical activities of a real devotee of Madhyama Bhakta are to avoid sadhuninda and to take association of sadhus, serve sadhus, and give knowledge to the innocent jivas while performing Nam Sankirtan. Being overcome with the material modes, if one commits the offence of blasphemy against a devotee, one should sincerely feel repentant and cry at the feet of that devotee for mercy and forgiveness. The devotee who is by nature very merciful will forgive the offender. Haridas concluded, according to your order, O Lord, I have discussed the first offence. This I offer to your lotus feet. That person who, like a bumblebee, lingers at the lotus feet of Haridas will receive the touchstone of the holy name as his life and soul. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's last verse in this chapter. So next chapter is chapter 5, worshipping the demigods as independent of Krishna. This is we will do in the next episode. Now I'll take any questions that are there. I think there are a lot of questions, I guess, but we are actually already quite late today. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, while trying to take care of Krishna's paraphernalia or any laptop or camera which is essential in Krishna's service and someone damages it, we shouldn't get angry at the time, or how should we respond then, being gentle? No, we should be upset. So that's why it is not that a devotee, he's upset that Krishna's paraphernalia, worship paraphernalia is misused, so or damaged. Of course, one should, what is upset means not from the heart. The thing is, if somebody has damaged it, one should correct him, and then one should repair the thing and then use it back again. What we will get if we have anger? We'll get nothing. So our anger only should be to correct that person and make him understand that this is actually Krishna's worship paraphernalia, and therefore should be handled carefully with that respect. And after having educated him, one should relinquish their anger immediately. It is just a tactic employed, but it's not the feeling that one should have towards that person, or should not be frustrated that this was damaged. Because things happen. So one should correct that mentality of that person which blocks him from seeing that this is a paraphernalia of Krishna, and make him realize that this is paraphernalia of Krishna, and therefore it has to be taken care of. And when we do that, and that's it, it has to be relinquished at that point, and then one has to do what is necessary to repair the thing and go on with the service. So that's how we should deal with that thing. Next question. Virendra, that has been a long time since he has come on our live streams. Welcome back. What are the symptoms by which a devotee knows that whether he is in Nama Aparad stage, Nama Bhas stage or Shuddhanam stage, and what are the effects of each of the three stages on a devotee with respect to chanting Harināma and his eventual progress in Krishna consciousness? When does a sadhak achieve Shuddhanam stage and gets transformed into Shuddha Bhakta, wherein he practices Raganuga Bhakti, which is actually desired from a devotee to achieve Krishna Prema or love of Godhead? Kindly answer, Prabhu. So, how does he understand? So, first thing, if he doesn't understand what stage he is in, then he is in Nama Aparad stage because he doesn't even know his whereabouts. So, a person who knows, he must know where he is. That's why I said just now, what is that? Therefore, it is important that one come to the position of Madhyama Bhakta, one who is qualified to make these distinctions. So Madhyama Bhakta will know what is Namaparad stage, what is Namabha stage, what is Shuddhanam stage, where I am and where I need to go, and who are in which stage and whom I should associate with, whose association I should avoid, and who I should give my association. So these things can be evaluated by at least a Madhyama Bhakta. If I do not know which stage I am, then I am in Kanishta Bhakta stage, because he doesn't know his whereabouts, he doesn't know how to judge. So we should know where we are. So basically we have to avoid these offenses as much as possible. And how it comes? By repeated chanting and praying to the holy name, praying to the spiritual master, and having a good service attitude, humble disposition, and serving the sadhus. So this is the proper mindset one should approach this with, and then eventually he will understand. So in the beginning we just have to chant, just like when a child is born, he doesn't know how he came into existence, and he doesn't know where he came from and how he came into this world, and he doesn't know what to do with life, he doesn't know who he is, and he's completely in chaos. What to speak now, even after 80 years old, the person doesn't know who he is. So at least talking materially, spiritually he doesn't know who he is even at the stage of 80. But say for example, as an infant, he doesn't know where he is and who he is and how he should deal with others. He will cry in the middle of a Bhagavad Gita class. He will cry loudly. He doesn't know how to behave. He passes stool, when in a meeting, in a temple maybe. He doesn't know how to behave, you see, and he vomits, or he puts his hand in the mouth and put everywhere. He doesn't know, he doesn't even know how to behave. He's like a wild animal almost, maybe like a pet animal, a bit wild. So as he grows, then he gives him a little more maturity, and then when he grows and he gets, he becomes an adult, then he understands how he actually came into the existence. Then he actually understands what is the meaning of father and mother. Although he always called his father and mother, he never knew what father and mother means. When he grows up, then he understands everything, how he has taken birth and everything. So similarly, in the beginning stages of bhakti, we don't really know how to even evaluate ourselves. How did we even come into this? We don't understand the intricacies of how this is working. But if we take to the process, we should understand at least the process, and then by regular hearing, we will come to understand how everything is working. And one just has to keep on chanting, keep on serving, and everything in the association of devotees. If one tries to stay aloof, he will not Krishna Bhakta Janmamula Hoy Sadhu Sangha. So, and what is that? Punarmukhya Anga. I always forget that the second part of that verse. CC Madhya 2283. Krishna Prema Janme Teho Punah Mukhya Anga. The root cause of devotional service to Lord Krishna is association with advanced devotees. Even when one's dormant love for Krishna awakens, association with the devotees is still most essential. So we have to be in association of devotees and chant the holy name and engage in all sorts of services under their guidance, follow the instruction. That way eventually we will grow. Divya Mataji, wonderful deep explanation with examples for each word, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. For the word alert, you mentioned you should be alert or quick in engaging a new devotee in Krishna consciousness. If our promptness or alertness becomes too much for a beginner and they completely leave our association in fear of too much strictness, then what should be done? So engaging a devotee means not immediately strictness. Somebody walks through the door of the temple, hey, give up meat eating, what are you doing, nonsense, rascal? That's not alertness. Alertness means we should know, of course, in the beginning one may make mistakes, or even sometimes, you talk something and then the person gets offended because of that and it never comes back. Some things we cannot do anything about them, but alert means to engage them in Krishna's service means receive him nicely, make him feel nice, give him prasadam, engage in classes and engage him in sitting in the classes and sell him a book, first thing, and then eventually guide him how to chant and slowly. So when I say alert in engaging him means, doesn't mean that hey, why did you come without a bead bag in your hand? Take a bead bag. What nonsense you're doing, not chanting. That's not what I meant. But sometimes, for some people who don't want to give up sense gratification, they will eventually sometimes drift away from the temple, thinking that it's too much for them to follow. So, can't do much about it. We have to maintain our standards, and then they have to understand that this is a standard if they want to become a devotee. And there will be people who will take up. And you see how Prabhupada dealt with people when he was in America and all these hippies were coming to him. How he gave his time and taught them, trained them in every single aspect of Krishna consciousness. So that is what I mean. But if it is too much strictness, sometimes it does happen, but we it's not that we can control every single situation, right? So if we have to be strict, we have to be strict. Okay, it's like that Prabhupada in Japan, he was giving this lecture and then that my Indian man was offended because his guru was not given a chance to speak, and he did not end up donating the premises to the devotees for a temple. Prabhupada said, doesn't matter, we can't allow this Mayavadis to speak. So he was so strict with that. So if it offends him, fine, it doesn't matter. If it comes to a point where he is not willing to change, then we cannot change for him. We can be courteous, we can be pleasant, we can be all that, but he has to change. If he eventually doesn't want to change and if he wants to impose his ideas, then one has to draw the line. See, this is the standard and we can't compromise on this because this is the reason, and yet we have to explain to him, and if he still doesn't want to give up, then then sorry, we can't accommodate you here, you find elsewhere. Why sannyas ashram is not prescribed for the age for everyone? There's no training, there's no no brahmachari training, no nothing. So one may eventually fall down easily. That's the reason why. But with devotional service, one will get all these good qualities of even renunciation and everything. Then yes, he can be given sannyas for the work of preaching. But of course, he should live up to that. He should not fall back. You see, and there's high chance people can fall back in this Kali Yuga, and that's why, in order to not disrespect in order not to disrespect the sannyas ashram, therefore it is not allowed in Kali Yuga, because people cannot maintain what they say. They cannot keep their promises. 3 types of gossips. Wisdom bite. Really? I don't remember. I don't remember doing this. Anyway. So Himanshu is asking Prabhu, then they say Brahma fall in Brahma Vimohan Leela, but he was the first guru and our Sampradaya is first guru, isn't it? Yeah, but I mean, he was teaching a lesson, na? If he did not do that Brahma, I mean, that if the Brahma Vimohan Leela did not happen, how would we know what Kṛṣṇa is capable of? Now there is a record that Kṛṣṇa can expand into all his friends. So we will get the lesson that, you see, so many lessons to be learned in one Leela. One of the lessons is, you see, how Kṛṣṇa is so independent that we think we are very important. Oh, if the cowherd boys think, for example, they are very important, he can do away with them and he can be the cowherd boy himself. He doesn't need us really. He can do everything himself. He doesn't need a Brahma to create the universe. If there is no qualified Brahma, he himself will become Brahma. So, on the ultimate issue, nobody is indispensable. So that is one lesson. Next lesson, I mean, if we try to be too smart with Kṛṣṇa, if we try to bewilder Kṛṣṇa, he knows how to bewilder us. Kṛṣṇa thought this was a Kṛṣna Vimohan, Brahma thought this was a Kṛṣna Vimohan Leela, and it turned out to be a Brahma Vimohan Leela. He wanted to confuse Kṛṣṇa, but he became confused. So that is another lesson. So we cannot try to test even such great, and the other lesson is, even such great person, I mean the greatest person in the universe, Brahma, cannot fathom the power of Kṛṣṇa. That again establishes superiority of Kṛṣṇa. So many things we can learn in one, and also within that one year that this happened, Kṛṣṇa was, because he expanded into all these cowherd boys and cows and calves, the whole of Vrindavan, began to experience Kṛṣṇa. So all the cowherd, everybody, their children were now Kṛṣṇa, and they were actually, the mothers were giving their breast milk to Kṛṣṇa instead of their own sons now. So, and he became, the calves became, Kṛṣṇa became the calves. So the cows also gave their milk to their own calves who were Kṛṣṇa. So Kṛṣṇa became all these personalities in Vrindavan. So there he expanded his enjoyment. While Brahma was trying to trick him, he tricked Brahma, and he gave this opportunity to give special mercy to all the residents of Vrindavan, and they were experiencing extra ecstasy because they were serving Kṛṣṇa now. So many things in one thing he did. So they are assisting the Lord in his pastimes and revealing to us these greatness, these intricacies, so that when we hear these things, we become, and live in by the glory of Kṛṣṇa. You see, and we become happy by discussing these pastimes. So for these reasons they act like that. But if they are absolutely stupid idiots, they will not be given the position of Brahma or Indra or anything like that. No, they are made to do like that so that it creates, if Indra did not give the rain, pour the rain, then there will be no Govardhan Leela. Jai Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe. So where we will stand this? So there are many reasons why demigods sometimes do this. And he was already Brahma Vimohan Leela. Again in Dwaraka he got Vimohana again. Oh, which Brahma you are talking about? Hare? Just a few moments ago, for him, Brahma, few years ago on earth, he already learned the position of Kṛṣṇa, and he offered great prayers in the 10th canto, 14th chapter. Please excuse me, I'm an offender, please consider me the small baby, so a baby may kick the mother in the womb, but the mother does not get angry, so please don't get angry with me like that. So he did all that, but then again he got Vimohana in the Dwaraka. Hare? How good is his memory? How come he forgot in a few moments like that? But it is all Leela again, to facilitate Krishna's greatness, you see. To facilitate the broadcasting of Krishna's greatness. So that's how we should understand these things. Divya, Prabhuji, could you explain third generation of Srila Prabhupada devotees, are they pure devotees? No generation is pure devotees unless they actually put all efforts to purely follow the pure instruction of Prabhupada. Third generation or 100th generation or 1000th generation, 10 millionth generation, if we don't put any effort, we cannot become, how can we, now I'm third generation, I'm pure devotee. What nonsense is this? We have to follow the instruction, then we will become pure. It can be possible in first generation, second generation, third generation, 10 million generation also. That's all. It all depends on our following the instruction. That's what really matters. Let's not be unnecessarily distracted by other things. Real qualification of devotee for not falling down is to be steadfastly situated in following the instruction of the spiritual master, and if he fails that, he will fall down. So that is the measure of a pure devotee. Nothing else. Dhiradas. A bona fide guru does not fall down because he always prays to Krishna. But a so-called guru can fall down. Even in Mahabharata is mentioned in a verse, Gurorapi avaliptasya. Anyone who is supposed to be a guru but who goes against the principle of Vishnu Bhakti cannot be accepted as guru. If one has falsely accepted such a guru, one should reject him. 8.20.1 purport. Yes. So गुरोरपि अवलिप्तस्य कार्यकार्यम् अजानतः उत्पथ प्रतिपन्नस्य परित्यागो विधीयते. Mahabharata Udyoga Parva 179 chapter 25th verse. Srila Jiva Goswami has advised that such a useless guru, a family priest acting as guru, should be given up and the proper bona fide guru should be accepted. And what is that? Karya karyam ajanatah. He does not know what to do and what not to do. What kind of guru is he? Utpatha pratipannasya parityago vidhiyatu. Give him up, rascal. Doesn't know anything himself, what he has to do and what not to do. How can he guide others? So these are the things. Good reference. Virendra. In the future or going down, do you think that Ritviks and ISKCON devotees who follow physical guru system will forget their philosophical differences as both belong to Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya, Vaiṣṇava Parampara, considering themselves to be Krishna conscious Prabhupada Anagas or followers of Srila Prabhupada? If you forget this principle, then you are not Vaishnava. We will never forget. We will always remember that Prabhupada, what he said, that he did not appoint any gurus, he will be the guru. And he is guiding everybody. And he is guiding not only through his books but also through his exemplary disciples who are acting as Shiksha Gurus to the other devotees. So the Vaishnava Parampara is going on, and if somebody is following physical guru system and everybody is falling there, and they may say, oh, not everybody is falling. Well, once one has disobeyed the spiritual master, he is considered fallen already. There is no such thing as nobody has fallen. No, not everybody has fallen. No. Some people have grossly, visibly fallen. Some people are subtly fallen, but they are still going on as guru, speaking all Mayavad nonsense rubbish. And others are conveying this idea that guru can be, you can fall down, it doesn't matter. One has to, Maya, Kali Yuga, that's why. But it is a service we have to do for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted this movement to spread far and wide, and therefore there should be gurus doing this. And as a service to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have to accept the role of guru. And that is Siksha Guru, not disciples. Disciples means you have to be a Diksha Guru, you have to be absolutely. Otherwise, what is the meaning of the nectar of the instruction, verse 1? What is the meaning? Only one who has controlled his senses completely, he can be Guru. And also he has to receive the order from his spiritual master. Prabhupada said, only when my Guru Maharaj ordered me, then I became Guru. So, order is definitely not there. The order is that continue the Ritvik system. So how can we forget this thing and make a compromise? No, we will never make a compromise. Either they forget their thing and come back to the Ritvik system, Or if they choose not to forget, then we will not forget. We will continue as a parallel movement. And let's see who will last. Challenge. So that is our stand. We will never forget. We will only mix with them if they are agreeable to follow the Ritvik system. Yes. Then we will associate with them, we will serve them, everything. We want to respect them. We want to respect all the sannyasis, all the devotees there. But if they are doing offense to Srila Prabhupada, who is the greatest Vaiṣṇava, then how can we intermingle with them? How can we be friends with them? So it is difficult. It all depends. If you are saying in the future, how it will happen? How do I know? I am not the knower of the future. So if they change, then yes. If they don't, then we will go about our way. That's it. Rishwani is saying, unless one is enlightened by the knowledge given by the spiritual master, he cannot see things as they are, even though he remains constantly with the spiritual master. Important point. 1899 purport. Very important point. Thank you for that. So this is true. So even if one is because just now that description, if one is near Uttamadhikari. So in that context, this was quoted. Very nice. So I have shown that story many times in the classes. How this Balabhadra Bhattacharya, even though with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, did not follow the instruction, how he became a fool. So therefore, you must be constantly with the instruction, which should be the proximity should be with the instruction of the spiritual master, not just the physical body, which is not always possible anyway. Even if he is physically around. Right? Rishwani is saying, deity or picture is considered to be non-difference. Hence, can we be said to have physical association by being near Srila Prabhupada's murti or cannot? Yes, of course. But of course, the real thing is the instruction. Of course, when we are with the murti, we are with Srila Prabhupada. Non-different. When we follow the instruction, then we will appreciate it even more. Just like Krishna is always within the heart of everyone. But a devotee appreciates his presence because he hears about him, he follows the instruction, and he sees the direct connection with Krishna. He feels it. He feels Krishna. So similarly, Prabhupada is in his murti, but we cannot feel him unless we have the absolute sense of servitude to him. So when we serve, service mentality is what is needed. Krishna is everywhere. Krishna is everywhere, every single atom. But are we seeing like that? So the reason why we don't see is because we don't have enough service attitude. But if we have, then we will see everything is related with Krishna. Then everything becomes auspicious. So-called material things will become completely auspicious. Because everything reminds us of Krishna. Everything will be used by such a devotee in Krishna's service. So it's in our consciousness how much we appreciate the fact that Prabhupada is in his murti. And Prabhupada is in his instruction. So once we appreciate it more and more, how to appreciate it then? Yeah, I will appreciate Prabhu. No. We have to follow the such instruction. We have to take it as life and soul. So then we will be acting exactly as what, like what Prabhupada is with us, physically. There will be no difference if we follow the instruction. And conversely, if Prabhupada is physically present and we don't follow his instruction, what is the use of physical proximity with such a guru? So ultimately we have to realize the presence of Srila Prabhupada in the murti and his instructions and always live by them. Then we will never be separated from Srila Prabhupada. Never. Virendra, what do you feel about ISKCON devotees criticizing Ritviks and vice versa? Are both of them not doing Vaishnava aparadh but criticizing each other as both are Krishna conscious? Okay, good question. So, we should know who is a Vaishnava, who is not. That's why you have to know what is Sādhu, what is not Sādhu. Now, they are trying to become Krishna conscious. But in the process, they are also offending the person who brought them to Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada, through his books, through his system of temples and the whole movement. And everybody else in the movement is an instrument of Srila Prabhupada. But there it's a little bit different. There they're taking the worship and falling down and setting a very, very low standard for a Uttama Adhikari, for a Guru. So this is not, and it was never authorized by Srila Prabhupada. So it is not simply, Krishna conscious, both are Krishna conscious. How Krishna conscious? What is the standard of Krishna consciousness that is being, propagated there? What is the standard? See, we should understand CC Adi 12. You go and read the purports yourself, but because it's already very late. But you see, I'll just go through these translations. At first, all of the followers of Advaita Acharya shared a single opinion, but later they followed two different opinions as ordained by Providence. See, there was two opinions. Some of the disciples strictly accepted the orders of the Acharya, and others deviated, independently concocting their own opinions under the spell of Daivi Maya. And now they're concocting even more in ISKCON. Women gurus, and because of that there is now fighting, there's now so much bickering and fighting in ISKCON right now within the upper echelon of ISKCON. So, where this is all heading? And that's exactly how Gaudiya Math disintegrated. And then, the order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. Anyone who disobeys the order of the spiritual master immediately becomes useless. Now, is this aparadh to those who are devotees who have disobeyed? No. To call them useless? No. It is a scripture's word. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying. And we have to live by that. What is the order of the spiritual master? And who is the one useless? And why is he useless? What is the effect of such movement? Where it is heading now? It looks big, it looks mighty, but it is bloated. It's bloated. The principles are very weak now. Everything is disintegrating. It's very unfortunate to see. It's not that we are very happy to see ISKCON like that. No, not at all. It's still a Prabhupada's beloved movement. He worked hard, blood, sweat and tears to build that. And it has been disintegrated like that. It's appalling. It makes us angry to see it like that. But what can we do staying there? And they are the ones who kicked us out anyway. Oh, you're not followers. Get out. Ostracized. And so we will show, anyway, the real movement of Srila Prabhupada is when his instructions are followed to the letter. And that's what we are trying to show. And let's see the difference. Over time will tell where everything will head. You see? So this is not everybody's Vaiṣṇava Aparadhis. No. We are showing by Prabhupada's instructions. There is no need to name. These are pretenders. Like the Asat Sangha, these are pretender gurus. What gurus are they? They know they are not, they were never told by Srila Prabhupada to become gurus. They all know them. All know that. Every one of them. None of them received any order. But they cheat. Openly cheating. This is not pretense. And anybody who criticizes them, if one avoids association of him, then he also should be avoided. So that is not sadhu ninda. We don't want to offend them. Honestly. If they change, why we will not associate with them? If they follow Srila Prabhupada, why we will not associate with them? We will. We want to. But they don't want. They're adamant. So we won't. In the 12:11, there is no need to name those who are useless. I mention them only to distinguish them from the useful devotees. Useful devotees, useless devotees. So a branch which is broken from a tree may still look alive with all leaves on it, flowers, fruits and everything. But it's only time. It looks the same as the tree, the branch that is joined to the tree. Broken branch, connected branch, both same. All green leaves, all fruits, flowers, everything is there. What is the difference? Time will tell the difference. One will become dry, one will glow luxuriantly. It's only a question of time. So paddy is mixed with straw at first, and one must fan it to separate the paddy from the straw. So we cannot paddy and straw mix together and stay in one association like that. How? Paddy and straw must be separate. One must fan it to separate. So we will not closely associate with these ISKCON devotees if they are going to continue what they are doing, offending Śrīla Prabhupada. I mean, bringing about a whole disrepute to the entire movement by doing what they are doing right now. So we want to follow Śrīla Prabhupada, and that's it. You can read the purport of these verses, by the way, then you will understand again. I think you are always asking these questions anyway. You will never, how many times I answer also, you will still ask the same questions. Anyway, for the others' benefit, I am answering. I don't know about you, Virendra Prabhu, but others might benefit. So are demigod worshippers also non-devotees, and should devotees avoid their association? Yes, they are also non-devotees, and their association should be avoided, but one should give one's association to them and educate them, and not take their association. Should give their association, give our association to them and educate them that Krishna is Supreme Personality and how they all are great servants of Krishna, these devatas. Not that they are independent gods or demigods or, demigods. Demigod means they are under the order of God. So they are not independent gods. No. So that education should be there. Rajeshwari, Hare Krishna Prabhu's Dandavad Pranam, Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. If someone shares confidentially about some other devotees because of their bitter experience with them, if we hear to them to help them to overcome, is that also considered as Vaishnava Ninda? No. If somebody has grievances about some devotee, and if somebody hears, suppose a senior devotee tells something which is not palatable to the devotee, and if that devotee discloses to me, saying that, oh, this devotee told me like that, I felt very bad, this, that, and if I hear out what they are saying, if I can help that person understand the perspective, that is not Ninda. But if I agree with that person and then, do not help that person understand the significance of such a correction or something, then that is Ninda. Of course, and if they don't talk, how we will educate them, right? So when they reveal their mind, then we have to educate them. But if they reveal and then we don't educate them and then we just hear, that is Ninda. And Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam says 1074:40 Nindam Bhagavatam Śrīmad Tatparasya Janasya Vam Nindam Bhagavatah Śrīmad Tatparasya Janasya Va Tato Napaiti Yahasopi Yatyadha Sukritachyutah. Anyone who fails to immediately leave the place where he hears criticism of the Supreme Lord or his faithful devotee will certainly fall down bereft of his pious credit. 10:44:10 is another verse. And of course 4:4:17, of course that's a more violent verse, but कर्णो पिधाय निरयाद यदकल्प ईशे धर्मा वितर्य श्रृणिभिर्निर्भिरस्य माने छिन्द्यात् प्रसह्य रुषतीं असतीं प्रभुश्चेत् जिह्वामसून्नपि ततो विसृजेत् स धर्मः. Sati continued, if one hears an irresponsible person blaspheme the master and controller of religion, one should block his ears and go away if unable to punish him. But if one is able to kill, then he should by force cut out that blasphemer's tongue and kill the offender, and after that one should give up his own life. Now this is a very violent version of it. It's not possible in today's context, but at least we can block our ears and go away. But if we can educate that person with argument and reasoning, that is better. Next, Virendra. When does a sadhak achieve Shuddhanam stage and gets transformed into Shuddha Bhakta, wherein he practices Raganuga Bhakti, by which a devotee achieves Krishna Prema or love of God? Am I right? Is it a question or a claim or what? You just answered the same question above. You just asked the same question. Anyway, we have already discussed. You could go and watch the first three episodes of this Harināma Cintāmaṇi series, and we have discussed what is Shuddhanam, what is Nama Bhas, what is Nama Parad, and what kind of a person can chant Shuddhanam and all that. First, start chanting properly and associate with the right association of devotees. Eventually, everything will fall into place. Alright, I think I will stop it here. Thank you all very much for associating and coming on. I'm sorry for the interruption. Few days I could not do it, but we are back. So, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Haridas Thakur ki jai, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupāda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.